Today we have 2 hours of Demon Slayer what-ifs. So, sit back, relax, and let's get started with...
Have you ever wondered what would have happened if Yoriichi were reborn with all of his memories? Could he save his brother or stop Muzan and finally live the life he was never allowed to? Well, when Yoriichi opens his eyes again, he would find himself in the same small hut where he was born, lying beside his twin brother Michikatsu. At first, he would think it's some kind of illusion, but as he listens to his mother's gentle voice and sees the rising sun through the window, he would realize something impossible has happened. He has truly gone back in time. All his memories, from his days as a demon slayer to the death of his comrades to his final lonely years, would come flooding back. His heart would ache as he remembers everything he lost, but this time he would promise himself, "I will not let history repeat itself." Yoriichi would stay quiet at first, taking in the familiar surroundings of the Sugikuni clan estate. His father's stern voice, his mother's gentle hands. It's all just as he remembered. But what he also remembers is the pain. The way his father looked at him with disgust the moment he saw the strange mark on his forehead. The way he declared that the newborn was cursed, destined to bring ruin to the family. Even as an infant, Yoriichi would remember that moment. The sound of his mother, Akino, as she protected him. From that day on, Yoriichi would be treated as nothing more than a burden. Poorer food, smaller rooms, fewer lessons. Everything about his childhood would remind him of how unwanted he was. But unlike before, he wouldn't cry, because this time, he knows what all of this will lead to. He knows that this pain is temporary. He would spend his early years silent, pretending to be the same mute child everyone thought he was. But deep inside, he would already be analyzing everything. The movement of people, the rhythm of their breathing, the energy flowing through their bodies. His transparent world vision would awaken early, sharper than ever before. Akino, his mother, would still craft the same Hanafuda earrings for him, praying that the gods would bless him with speech. But when Yoriichi receives them this time, he would hold them close. "Thank you, mother. You've already given me the strength I need." Even as a child, Yoriichi would stay close to her, not just out of attachment, but to make sure she never suffered alone. In his previous life, he hadn't realized how ill she was until it was too late. This time, he watches every day, making mental notes of her movements, her breathing, the slight stiffness in her arms. All early signs of the sickness he remembered. But he says nothing yet. He's waiting for the right time. Michikatsu, on the other hand, would still visit him in secret, just as before, sneaking into Yoriichi's small 3-tatami room to share food, stories, and laughter. Yoriichi would smile gently every time, cherishing those moments more than anything. He knows how this bond will be tested in the future, how envy will once turn to hatred, and he's determined not to let that happen again. When Michikatsu gives him the handmade flute, Yoriichi would hold it with tears in his eyes. "Thank you, brother," he'd whisper. "I'll treasure it forever." Then, one afternoon, when he's 7 years old, the same moment would come. The moment that changed everything in the original story. Yoriichi would watch Michikatsu practicing his sword swings in the yard. The sound of the blade slicing through air filling his mind with nostalgia. Without thinking, he'd smile. And for the first time since being reborn, he'd speak. "I want to be a samurai. Just like you, brother." Michikatsu would freeze. In the past, Yoriichi had never spoken a single word until that day. His sudden voice would bring everyone running. But Yoriichi would stay calm. When one of their father's men agrees to humor him and show him a stance, Yoriichi would already know what's coming. He'd quietly take his position, breathe deeply, and in an instant, move. 4 clean strikes land before the man even realizes what happened. Everyone would stare in disbelief. The 7-year-old boy, long thought to be deaf and weak, had just done what no trainee could. But instead of feeling proud, Yoriichi would frown. The sensation of hitting another person again. It would remind him too much of his violent past life. He'd lower the wooden sword, step back, and say softly, "I don't want to hurt anyone." Michikatsu would ask him how he did it, how he could move like that, and Yoriichi would smile. He'd try to explain how he could see the flow of air. It would sound like nonsense to most people, but Michikatsu would listen carefully. Still, Yoriichi wouldn't talk about swords anymore. He'd laugh gently and tell his brother he'd rather fly kites and play board games instead. Michikatsu would laugh too, thinking his brother just lost interest. But Yoriichi knows the truth. He's waiting for the right moment when he'll need to pick up the sword again. Not to kill, but to protect the ones he loves. After their mother's death, Yoriichi would quietly go to his brother's room just like before. He would still tell Michikatsu the news, but this time he wouldn't plan to leave. Instead, he would sit beside him in silence, remembering how in his previous life, this was the night he ran away forever. He would gently place the flute Michikatsu made for him on the table and say softly, "Brother, I'm not going anywhere this time." Michikatsu would be confused at first, but then he'd see something different in Yoriichi's eyes. A calm confidence that wasn't there before. In his past life, Yoriichi had run away to spare Michikatsu from being sent to the temple. But that act had only created distance and jealousy. Now, knowing how much pain that separation would cause, Yoriichi decides to change fate. When their father later tries to make Yoriichi his heir and send Michikatsu to the temple, Yoriichi would step forward and say that he refuses the position. He would explain that both brothers should train together and serve the clan as equals. His quiet conviction would shock everyone, even his father. But Akino's death had softened the household, and for the first time, peace would settle over the Tsugikuni family. But Yoriichi's heart would still feel something missing. A faint memory, a face in the mountains, a quiet voice that once filled his lonely days. Remembering this, he would tell Michikatsu that he wished to travel for a short while, to find someone important to him. Michikatsu, trusting his brother completely, would agree. Yoriichi would once again come across Uta, a girl around his age living alone after losing her family. But unlike the broken, grieving version he met in his past life, Yoriichi would approach her differently this time. He would tell her that she didn't need to live in sorrow anymore, that she could come with him and start anew. Uta, hesitant at first, would see a rare kindness in his eyes, a warmth that calmed her heart, so she would accept. Yoriichi would bring her back to the Tsugikuni mansion, and though some of the elders would object to bringing in an outsider, Michikatsu would defend his brother's choice. Together, they would make sure Uta was treated with respect. Years would pass peacefully. Yoriichi would train daily with Michikatsu and the family samurai, perfecting his technique and teaching others how to harness their breathing to increase strength and speed. Uta would grow up alongside them, learning, helping, and becoming part of the household. 10 years later, Yoriichi and Uta would finally marry. It wouldn't be a wedding marked by luxury or power, just a quiet ceremony under the same cherry trees where they used to sit and talk. Michikatsu would be by their side, proud and smiling, for the first time feeling no jealousy or bitterness. By the time Yoriichi reached adulthood, the Tsugikuni clan would be known across the land for producing warriors unmatched in discipline and strength. But despite their fame, Yoriichi would remain humble, living quietly with Uta and their child, visiting his brother often to train. Sometimes during quiet evenings, Yoriichi would play the same flute Michikatsu once gave him. The sound would drift through the courtyard, and the brothers would sit together watching the sunset. For the first time, Yoriichi's heart would feel light. The endless sadness from his past life, the loneliness, the regret, all of it would begin to fade. He had changed the path of destiny. Uta and their child lived. Michikatsu never turned into a demon. And for the first time in all his lives, Yoriichi finally found peace. One night, rumors spread through nearby villages, whispers of monsters, of men with fangs. Yoriichi and Michikatsu gathered a small group of samurai and set out to protect the people. When the first demon appeared before them, its claws dripping with blood, the warriors faltered. But Yoriichi stepped forward. That day, the sun breathing was born. And for the first time, Michikatsu felt the same pulse awaken within him. A rhythm different from Yoriichi's, slower, colder, yet beautiful in its own way. Under the same moonlight, he crafted his own form, moon breathing. Together, the brothers led their warriors against the growing tide of demons. Their names became legend, the twin pillars of light. Yoriichi's sun breathing and Michikatsu's moon breathing stood as the foundation of what would one day be known as the breathing arts, techniques that would be passed down through generations, shaping the Demon Slayer core. Years of calm and purpose had strengthened both Yoriichi and Michikatsu. Together with their warriors, the earliest Hashira, they had fought countless demons and reclaimed entire regions of Japan from the darkness. Yet a shadow persisted, the rumor of one demon who could not die, who created all others. Muzan Kibutsuji. Yoriichi knew this name not from fear but from instinct, the same deep burning truth that had guided his blade since childhood. He understood that the being would not reveal himself easily, so rather than search endlessly, Yoriichi waited. He studied the pattern of demon activity, the silence before outbreaks, the sudden vanishings, until one night everything aligned. He will appear here. Yoriichi said softly to Michikatsu, standing beneath the rising moon, "I will face him." When I signal, strike. Do not hesitate. Michikatsu nodded. The brothers clasped forearms, a silent promise of unity. The other samurai concealed themselves in the surrounding woods, poised for an ambush if needed. Under the pale lantern light of a lonely street, Yoriichi walked alone. Then, the air thickened. From the darkness emerged a man in pristine white robes, his eyes glimmering crimson with contempt. At his side stood a woman, Tamayo, her expression hollow yet flickering with quiet pain. Muzan's presence was suffocating, a storm of hatred disguised as calm. Yoriichi felt it instantly, and yet he did not raise his sword. "You must be Muzan Kibutsuji," Yoriichi said. "Tell me, what value do you see in life that you wish to corrupt it so?" Muzan's lips curled. "Value? I am life perfected, unending. You breathe only to die. I breathe forever." His arms swept in long, fluid arcs. But Yoriichi was not any man. In that instant, he saw everything. The flow of blood, the shifting hearts, the transparent world unveiled. A blinding strike that cut through the 7 hearts and 5 brains in one seamless motion. Muzan screamed, his body shattering like glass. As Muzan's pieces writhed on the ground, Yoriichi stepped forward. For a long moment, he only watched. Then, he spoke softly, voice trembling not from fear, but compassion. "You could still stop this," Yoriichi said. "You could use your power to protect, not destroy. Every being, no matter how lost, carries a spark that can change." Tamayo's breath caught. For the first time, someone was speaking to Muzan as a man, not a monster. Her eyes filled with tears she didn't understand. But Muzan only laughed. A low, twisted sound. "You pity me?" "Foolish mortal. I am beyond salvation." His body began to pulse, the fragments trying to scatter once again. Yoriichi's eyes hardened. "Then you leave me no choice." He pressed his hand to his chest and signaled with a short, sharp whistle. The forest erupted. Michikatsu and the samurai burst from the shadows. Yoriichi's 13th form ignited. Michikatsu mirrored him with the crescent arcs of moon breathing. Every piece of Muzan that tried to flee was cleaved, burned, and annihilated. The night ended in silence. No escaping fragments, no lingering malice. For the first and only time in history, Muzan Kibutsuji was completely destroyed. Tamayo fell to her knees, trembling. The curse mark upon her neck faded away, Muzan's control over her dissolving like mist in the sunlight. Tears streamed down her face. "He's gone. After all this time, he's truly gone." Yoriichi sheathed his sword. "You are free now. If you wish, walk with us. Help heal the wounds he left behind." Tamayo bowed her head deeply. "Then let my knowledge serve the living, not the damned." From that night forward, Yoriichi, Michikatsu, and Tamayo worked together, studying the remnants of demonic blood, creating medicines, and teaching others how to resist corruption. There were no betrayals, no hatred between brothers, only light, the sun and moon standing side by side, guarding the world from the shadows that once ruled it. After defeating Muzan, Yoriichi's heart finally found calm. Wandering through quiet villages, he visited his old friends, Sumiyoshi and Suyako Kamado. Their home sat deep in the countryside, surrounded by laughter and sunlight. When Yoriichi arrived, Sumiyoshi welcomed him warmly. Over tea, they spoke of peace, of a world no longer ruled by fear. Their little daughter Sumire tugged gently on Yoriichi's robes, and when he lifted her into his arms, the child's laughter brought tears to his eyes. At Suyako's request, Yoriichi performed the forms of sun breathing in their yard. His movements flowed like fire under the setting sun, so graceful that the Kamados watched in silent awe. Sumiyoshi memorized every motion, vowing to preserve them for generations. Before leaving, Yoriichi handed him his Hanafuda earrings. These will remind you that even when the sun sets, it will always rise again. Years later, Yoriichi passed away peacefully beneath the same morning light he had once danced under, smiling, knowing the world and the Kamado family would live happily ever after. Centuries passed since Yoriichi Tsugikuni's peaceful death. The story of demons, breathing styles, and endless bloodshed faded into legend, little more than old tales told by the fire. With Muzan gone, his curse erased completely. No demon blood ever survived to stain the future. By the time of the Kamado family's descendants, Tanjiro, Nezuko, and the the others, Japan had entered a quiet, ordinary age. The world knew no Demon Slayer Corps, no Ubuyashiki family, and no moonlit hunts through the night. Tanjiro Kamado was just a humble boy from the mountains, known for his kindness and his incredible sense of smell. But it wasn't used to track demons anymore. Instead, it helped him pick the freshest charcoal, and later to bake bread with perfect timing in the town's market. Nezuko grew up beside him, cheerful and full of life, never having to suffer the curse of demonhood. Zenitsu, Inosuke, and even the descendants of old Hashira lived normal, peaceful lives. Farmers, shopkeepers, and travelers who shared laughter instead of bloodshed. They never knew the pain of battle or loss. Sometimes, when the sun set and the wind blew through the mountains, Tanjiro would pause, feeling an ancient warmth in his chest, like a memory from another life. He didn't understand it, but deep down, his soul carried the quiet legacy of Yoriichi Sugikuni, the man who long ago ended the age of demons, ensuring that this simple, happy world could exist at all. And so, the cycle of suffering was finally broken. No demon slayers, no battles, only peace, the kind that Yoriichi had once dreamed of.
Next up we have who respected Tanjiro in Demon Slayer.
Do you know who truly respects Tanjiro in Demon Slayer? We all know Nezuko respects him 100%. But what about the bitter Hashira like Openai? Or the upper ranks like Akaza? Well, that's what we're going to break down in today's video. Let's start off with the Temple Demon. He was the very first man-eating demon Tanjiro ever faced. Territorial and arrogant, he viewed humans as nothing more than prey trespassing on his domain. When Tanjiro tried to defend himself, the demon mocked his weakness and regenerated instantly, showing complete disdain for Tanjiro's efforts. Even after being decapitated by Nezuko, he continued to fight with hatred, refusing to acknowledge Tanjiro's courage or skill. His final words were curses, not respect. The Temple Demon saw Tanjiro only as food, never as a threat or warrior. The King of Demons Muzan holds absolutely no respect for Tanjiro Kamado. His score is a perfect 0%. To Muzan, Tanjiro isn't a warrior to acknowledge, but a living reminder of fear. The sight of Tanjiro's Hanafuda earrings instantly revives memories of Yoriichi Tsugikuni, the man who once brought him to the brink of death. From that moment, Muzan's hatred burns with panic and rage. Arrogant and consumed by pride, he views humans as fragile and worthless. Tanjiro, in his eyes, is not a threat born of strength, but an insult, a ghost of his greatest failure that he's desperate to erase forever. The Tamari demon Susumaru and the Arrow demon Yahaba showed absolutely no respect toward Tanjiro. Blinded by their devotion to Muzan, they viewed him as nothing more than a nuisance to be crushed. Susumaru laughed and played cruelly with her deadly Tamari, while Yahaba looked down on Tanjiro with arrogance and disgust. Their only desire was to bring his head to Muzan and earn false glory as 12 Kizuki. Even as they fell, neither showed remorse, only frustration and hate. Ironically, Tanjiro pitied them. Next up, Gyutaro and Daki. Both score a flat 0%. Daki? She's all about looks and pride. She called Tanjiro ugly and pathetic. And honestly, she meant it. She measures worth by beauty and power. So when Tanjiro collapsed before cutting her neck, she saw that as proof that humans are just weak trash. Even when she said Tanjiro had nice eyes, it wasn't a compliment. More like, shame those eyes belong to someone so pitiful. Gyutaro, on the other hand, is more tragic. His hate comes from pain. He looks at Tanjiro and sees a version of himself who failed to protect his sister. That hits deep for him. So when he offers to turn Tanjiro into a demon, it's not respect, it's pity. Like, you're weak, I'll help you escape that weakness. If pity counted as respect, he'd be at 100%. But since it doesn't, they stay at 0. Hantengu has a 5% respect for Tanjiro. He is a cowardly and deceitful creature consumed by fear and delusion. When he first encounters Tanjiro, he trembles and hides, claiming to be innocent despite his countless crimes. Hantengu's emotions split into powerful clones, each representing anger, joy, sorrow, and pleasure, allowing him to fight while he cowers in the shadows. Though he fears Tanjiro's strength and determination, this fear never turns into true respect. Instead, he sees Tanjiro as a threat, a cruel reminder of the justice he denies. His respect is merely terror disguised as self-pity. Enmu, with a 10%, is manipulative and sadistic, delighting in tormenting humans through dreams. As Muzan's favored lower moon, he sees himself as superior and treats Tanjiro with condescension. During the Mugen train battle, he underestimates Tanjiro's resolve, mocking his compassion as weakness. But when Tanjiro and Inosuke strike him down, Enmu's arrogance falters. He grudgingly acknowledges Tanjiro's skill and indomitable will before disintegrating. Now, here's a surprising one. The Hand Demon from Final Selection. This guy gets a small but meaningful 15%. He hated Tanjiro at first, purely because Tanjiro was Urokodaki's student. For decades, he'd killed every one of Urokodaki's trainees out of revenge. So yeah, total hatred. But when Tanjiro showed him kindness, taking his hand, comforting him in his final moments, that changed something. For the first time in forever, the Hand Demon remembered what it meant to be human. He didn't respect Tanjiro's strength. He respected his kindness. Just for a second. But it mattered. Rui, with a 20% respect, commands his spider family with fear and obsession. When he meets Tanjiro, he is fascinated by the Kamados siblings' bond, something he desperately craves but can never truly understand. Rui initially looks down on Tanjiro, viewing him as weak, but that changes when Tanjiro unleashes the Hinokami Kagura. For the first time, Rui feels awe, a flash of genuine respect before his death. Though still arrogant, he acknowledges Tanjiro's will and strength in their final moments. Rui's respect comes not from fear, but from envy of the humanity and love he lost long ago. The Serpent Hashira, Openai Iguro. Now, this one's complicated. He starts around 25%. From the start, he hated Tanjiro's rule breaking. A demon slayer traveling with a demon? To Openai, that's an insult to everything the Corps stands for. Plus, let's be honest, there's jealousy here. Openai is madly in love with Mitsuri, and she genuinely enjoys Tanjiro's kindness. So every time he saw her smile around Tanjiro, his blood boiled. But here's the thing, Openai respects dedication. When Tanjiro keeps fighting despite brutal injuries, especially during the final arcs, Openai starts to see him. That initial 25% grows later, but for now, we're talking early impressions. Skeptical, jealous, but quietly observant. And now, the win Hashira Sanemi. Same score, 25%, but for totally different reasons. Sanemi's hate for demons runs deep. He's lost too much to even consider trusting one. So when Tanjiro showed up defending Nezuko, yeah, that didn't go well. During the Hashira meeting, he stabbed Nezuko just to prove she was still a monster. That's how far his anger went. At that point, Tanjiro was a joke to him, a naive kid breaking the rules. But here's what's cool. Sanemi respects people who can take a beating and keep standing. When Tanjiro survives his hits and later fights beside him in the final battle, that earns Sanemi's silent respect. It's the kind of earned through blood respect. No words, no praise, just mutual recognition between warriors who refuse to fall. Akaza is one of the most compelling characters in this analysis. His respect for Tanjiro is absolutely unique among the upper ranks, sitting at about 40%. Akaza has an intense obsession with strength. He despises those he perceives as weak, and is obsessed with finding worthy opponents to turn into demons. He absolutely respected Rengoku Kyojuro because of his powerful spirit. For Tanjiro, Akaza initially sees him as a pathetic weakling, especially after Rengoku's death. However, as the fight in the Infinity Castle progresses, Akaza is shocked and eventually terrified by Tanjiro's ability to tap into the transparent world and cut off his head. Akaza respects Tanjiro's potential and his fighting spirit. Tanjiro fights without a desire for power. He fights for his duty, his family, and his comrades. This purity is something Akaza, deep down, recognizes from his own human life. The 40% comes from the fact that Akaza respects the warrior spirit within Tanjiro, but his demonic mind still rejects Tanjiro's core value, the protection of the weak. The Grey Murata has a 55% score respect for Tanjiro, because why not? The dude is literally angry that he isn't the main character, but deep down, he still has some little respect for him. Subscribe to make Murata the MC. This might seem low for a close friend, but Zenitsu Agatsuma's respect is complicated, placing him around 55%. In many ways, Zenitsu idolizes Tanjiro. He respects his kindness, his courage, and his ability to see the good in others. even Nezuko. Tanjiro often acts as Zenitsu's moral compass and protector. However, a huge part of Zenitsu's interaction with Tanjiro is driven by jealousy and a sense of inferiority. Zenitsu constantly whines about Tanjiro's harem of beautiful girls, and often sees him as a rival for Nezuko's affection. This isn't malicious, but it constantly cuts his admiration. When he's awake and competent, he respects Tanjiro immensely, but his respect is often filtered through his self-pity and jealousy. Once a proud flame Hashira, Shinjuro Rengoku fell into despair after losing his wife and his faith in the Demon Slayer Corps. When he first met Tanjiro, his bitterness and grief made him lash out, dismissing Tanjiro's dedication and mocking the sun-breathing connection. However, beneath his anger, Shinjuro sensed something familiar. The same burning spirit that wants to find his son, Kyojuro. After Tanjiro's fierce defense of Kyojuro's honor and his refusal to respond with hate, Shinjuro's hardened heart began to crack. He eventually recognized Tanjiro's sincerity and strength of character, realizing he carried on the same flame that once guided the Rengoku family. Though clouded by regret, Shinjuro's respect for Tanjiro burns quietly, fueled by loss, guilt, and a rekindled sense of pride. The fiery swordsmith Hotaru Haganazuka with a 70% respect is infamous for his temper and obsession with perfection, especially when Tanjiro breaks his swords. Though he constantly scolds and chases Tanjiro with knives, his anger hides a deep respect for the young swordsman's determination and faith in his craft. After seeing Tanjiro's appreciation for swordsmiths and his unyielding spirit, Hotaru trains himself relentlessly to forge a blade worthy of him. Even while gravely injured, he continues polishing Tanjiro's sword without hesitation, proof of his devotion. Hot-headed but fiercely loyal with a 75%, Genya Shinazugawa starts off brash and hostile toward Tanjiro, dismissing him as weak. Yet over time, Tanjiro's compassion and determination break through Genya's walls. Fighting side by side during the Swordsmith village arc, Genya witnesses Tanjiro's selflessness and gains deep respect for his resolve and faith in others, qualities Genya longed for amid his strained bond with Sanemi. Tanjiro's ability to accept him, demon blood and all, moves Genya profoundly. Their friendship becomes one built on mutual trust and shared pain. Even as his own body faltered, Genya fought to protect Tanjiro, showing his true heart beneath the rough exterior. Genya respects Tanjiro as both a comrade and the first person who truly believed in him. At first, Yushiro had no respect for Tanjiro. He insulted him, mocked Nezuko, and constantly lashed out whenever Tanjiro spoke to Tamayo. But as they fought side by side against Susamaru and Yahaba, Yushiro began to recognize Tanjiro's sincerity and courage. He saw that Tanjiro truly valued Tamayo's kindness and respected demons who sought redemption. Though he'd never admitted openly, Yushiro's attitude softened over time. After the final battle, he even praised Tanjiro's bravery, a rare gesture of honesty from someone so prideful. Behind his harsh words, Yushiro quietly admired Tanjiro's compassion, strength, and unwavering humanity. Has a 75% respect too. Tengen Uzui with 85%. The flamboyant sound Hashira and his three wives. Makio, Suma, and Hinatsuru share a deep admiration for Tanjiro. At first, they see him as just another young demon slayer, too pure-hearted for the brutality of their mission. But during the Entertainment District battle, Tanjiro's courage and resolve astonished them. Even when exhausted and injured, he refuses to back down against Upper Moon 6. Tengen recognizes Tanjiro's will as truly flashy, while his wives admire his heart and humility. Together, they respect him not only as a warrior, but as someone who reminds them why they fight, to protect life and hope. Shinobu with 85%. Despite her passive-aggressive demeanor, grew to respect Tanjiro. She respected his compassion for demons, a compassion she had lost. She was impressed by his focus during his training, his humility, and his relentless drive. She saw him as the key to continuing her sister's dream of a world where humans and demons could coexist peacefully. The strongest Hashira, Gyomei Himejima, with a whopping 85% too, carries both immense strength and a gentle soul. At first, Gyomei doubted Tanjiro and Nezuko's purity, viewing them as potential dangers to the core. However, once he witnessed Nezuko's restraint and Tanjiro's unwavering devotion, his faith in them grew. He deeply respects Tanjiro's kindness, perseverance, and unshakable moral compass, traits that reflect Gyomei's own spiritual values. Gyomei admires how Tanjiro shoulders pain with compassion rather than hatred, a quality few warriors possess. Though he rarely expresses it verbally, his silent nods thoughts and calm trust in Tanjiro during battles speak volumes. His respect stems not from power, but from purity of heart. Yomei honors Tanjiro's spirit as one of true faith and humanity. Sabito and Makomo, both with 90% respect. The spirits of Urokodaki's former students became Tanjiro's greatest teachers during his training. Sabito's strength and discipline pushed Tanjiro beyond his limits, while Makomo's calm wisdom guided his heart. At first, they doubted his potential, seeing him as fragile and unrefined. But Tanjiro's resilience, compassion, and unwavering willpower earned their admiration. When he finally split the boulder, their spirits smiled with pride, acknowledging him as the one who would carry their master's legacy forward. Though no longer alive, their faith in Tanjiro shines through, symbolizing the deep respect only true warriors can share. Mitsuri Kanroji's respect is at a high 90%, since she is one of the few Hashira who never judged Tanjiro for his association with Nezuko. She is open-hearted, non-judgmental, and sees the goodness in people immediately. She was sympathetic toward Tanjiro from the start, expressing concern about the rules being too harsh. During the Swordsmith village arc, their bond deepens. She admires his incredible effort, his kindness, and his dedication to his sister. Her respect is not just for him as a soldier, but as a person. She's a cheerleader and a firm believer in Tanjiro's inherent goodness and strength, which is why her score is so high. The only reason it's not 100% is that she doesn't know the full weight of the sun-breathing legacy until much later. The amnesiac Muichiro Tokito undergoes a massive shift in perspective, earning him 90%. At first, Muichiro dismisses Tanjiro completely during the Swordsmith village arc. He is arrogant, self-centered, and sees no value in anyone who isn't immediately useful to the Demon Slayer Corps. He even acts arrogantly toward Tanjiro when they first meet. However, Tanjiro's simple, direct, and kind nature, coupled with his relentless drive to help others, forces Muichiro to confront his own forgotten memories and true self. Tanjiro's words about the importance of helping others crack Muichiro's all. The wild, boar-headed warrior Inosuke Hashibira scores a surprising 90%. Inosuke's respect is the most competitive and physical of the group. Initially, Inosuke's goal was to defeat Tanjiro, whom he viewed as a great rival for strength. He called him Manjiro and was constantly trying to one-up him. This was not respect, it was pure rivalry. However, over the course of their journey, especially the Father Spider Demon and Entertainment District fights, Inosuke realized Tanjiro is his true leader and moral anchor. Inosuke respects Tanjiro's strength and persistence. Tanjiro never gives up, which Inosuke admires. Tanjiro is the first person to consistently be nice to him and teach him what it means to be human. When Tanjiro tells him to jump, Inosuke eventually jumps. Inosuke's respect is the deepest form of acknowledgement of a true friend and superior. The only 10% held back is his stubborn, competitive nature that compels him to still try and beat Tanjiro at everything. We are now at the top of the respect analysis. The characters who see Tanjiro as an absolute hero. The Flame Hashira Kyojuro Rengoku holds an almost perfect score of 99%. During the Mugen Train arc, Rengoku immediately recognized the potential and the fierce dedication within Tanjiro. He respected Tanjiro's selflessness, his courage to dive into an upper ranks domain, and his willingness to risk his life for strangers. Rengoku's final words were a complete endorsement of Tanjiro's path. He didn't just respect him as a slayer, he respected him as a successor to the will of the Demon Slayer Corps. Rengoku urged him to follow his path and told him to have confidence in his own future. This is the highest form of respect one veteran warrior can give to another. The only reason it's 99% is that he tragically never lived to see Tanjiro fully master the sun breathing. Tanjiro's master Urokodaki Sakonji, the former water Hashira, also earns a 99%. Urokodaki's respect is the deep, lasting respect of a teacher for his most exceptional student. He pushed Tanjiro to his absolute limit, but in doing so, he showed a belief in his potential. He risked his life by making a solemn vow to the core that if Nezuko ever devoured a human, he and Giyu would commit seppuku. This vow was the ultimate expression of faith in Tanjiro's ability to protect his sister and control her demonic side. He respected Tanjiro's kindness, his dedication to the sword, and his willingness to push past physical limits. He is the quiet foundation of Tanjiro's strength, and his respect is absolute. The stoic Giyu Tomioka is one of the most critical figures in Tanjiro's life, scoring 100%. Giyu is the reason Tanjiro is still alive and a demon slayer. He respects respects Tanjiro's determination. Giyu was the first to witness Tanjiro's selfless desire to protect Nezuko, even when unarmed, which convinced him to spare them. By sending Tanjiro to Urokodaki, he acknowledged his potential to become an exceptional demon slayer. And he also sees Tanjiro's relentless pursuit of a cure for Nezuko as an admirable act. Over time, his respect only grew as he witnessed Tanjiro's relentless pursuit of a cure for Nezuko, and his unyielding kindness, even toward demons. To Giyu, Tanjiro embodies the pure essence of what a demon slayer should be. Tamayo holds immense respect for Tanjiro Kamado with 100%. As one of the few demons who regained her humanity, she instantly recognized Tanjiro's kindness and empathy. Instead of fearing or hating her, Tanjiro treated her as an ally, a gesture that touched her deeply. Tamayo admired his resolve to save Nezuko and his belief that not all demons are evil. She saw in him the same hope she once found in Yoriichi long ago. Their partnership was built on mutual trust. Tamayo risked everything to help Tanjiro defeat Muzan, even sacrificing herself for the cause. His little sister, Nezuko Kamado, is an obvious 100%. This is the core relationship of the entire series. Nezuko's respect for Tanjiro is not just familial love, it's a testament to his strength of character. Her entire will to resist her demonic instincts is rooted in her brother's love and his belief in her humanity. Even as a demon, her memories and loyalty to Tanjiro are what allow her to fight for humans. She repeatedly risks her life, uses her blood demon art to protect him, and is driven by the singular goal of being cured for him. Her respect is built on absolute trust, love, and the recognition that Tanjiro is the purest soul she knows. The leader of the Demon Slayer Corps, Kagaya Ubuyashiki, the Master, holds the final, most powerful 100% score. The Master's the one who ultimately decided that Tanjiro and Nezuko would be permitted to join the Corps. His respect is based on his supernatural ability to see into the souls of others. He saw the exceptional potential, the undeniable love, and the pure intention behind Tanjiro's mission. He respects Tanjiro not just for who he is now, but for who he will become. The successor to the sun-breathing legacy and the ultimate weapon against Muzan. His faith in Tanjiro and his mission was absolute, unmoving, and placed above the rules of the entire Corps. By entrusting Tanjiro with the fate of the Corps and the fight against Muzan, the Master granted him the highest, most consequential form of respect in the entire story. For Kanao, whose respect is infinity. Tanjiro is more than a fellow demon slayer. He's the one who changed her fate. From the moment they met, Tanjiro's kindness, honesty, and unwavering heart began to melt the walls she built around herself. He taught her to make choices, to feel, and to believe in her own strength. Through every battle, Tanjiro's compassion and determination inspired her to follow her heart without hesitation. By the time their journey ends, Kanao's respect for him is absolute. To her, Tanjiro isn't just a hero, he's the light that guided her out of silence and into a life of purpose. This analysis shows that the question isn't if characters respect Tanjiro, it's how much and why it changes them.
And now, the ultimate Tanjiro what ifs.
What if Tanjiro fought Yoriichi, or the Upper Moons, or even Muzan himself? How far could his strength truly go if he pushed beyond every limit? Let's start off with Tanjiro versus the Upper Moons.
What if Tanjiro fought every Upper Moon demon? Can he defeat them alone? How would he even go up against monsters like Kokushibo and Doma alone? Well, we have an answer to all that. I'll be splitting the forms of Tanjiro into 3 forms: his base form, peak human form, and a surprise form that you'll see at the end of the video. Well, we'll start with the weakest form, Tanjiro's base form. So what are Tanjiro's abilities? Well, in this form, Tanjiro already has awakened his Demon Slayer mark, granting him a boost in physical strength. He wields a bright red Nichiren sword, which gives him an edge over some Upper Moons by drastically slowing down their regenerative abilities with each slash. Additionally, Tanjiro possesses enhanced accuracy, extrasensory perception, genius battle IQ, and enhanced strength. Without gaining some enlightenment or plot armor protection, this form will be the strongest that Tanjiro can achieve normally. In this base form, Tanjiro is also quite proficient in using the water breathing technique. Well, the primary breathing technique he employs in this form is the Hinokami Kagura, which he can execute from the 1st to the 12th form of this technique. With that in mind, how would he do against the Upper Moons? Well, let's move on to the first encounter. Upper Moon 6, Daki and Gyutaro. With all the abilities mentioned earlier, it's safe to say that the base form Tanjiro will definitely win against them, albeit he'll be somewhat wounded. But that is if we haven't taken into account the siblings, conditional death and decapitation immunity opportunity where Tanjiro has to cut both their heads off at the same time, which will prove to be quite troublesome. So how will Tanjiro overcome this? Well, first things first, Tanjiro would use his improved speed to catch Daki off guard, whereas in the original series, even when he's not in his most powerful base form, Tanjiro was still able to blitz her. But Gyutaro's abilities here with her and his Blood Demon art, they can have enough range to make Tanjiro just block their attacks, not giving him any time to counter. However, once he fully unlocks his Demon Slayer mark and uses extra sensory perception, he can find an opening to slash both of their necks in one go, especially if Daki is near Gyutaro. He'll be heavily poisoned by Gyutaro's Blood Demon art, which is said to be so potent that it's even dangerous for Inosuke. Overall though, Tanjiro will still be victorious over the Upper Moon 6 siblings. Moving on to Upper Moon 6 replacement, Kaigaku. Can Tanjiro win against this new Upper Moon? Well, just a short overview, Kaigaku is a former fellow disciple of Zenitsu, under the same master. He's a former demon slayer who uses a thunder breathing technique, and he combines it with Blood Demon arts, making him a formidable enemy. However, Kaigaku still wasn't able to beat Infinity Castle Zenitsu and was one-shotted even though he ate a large number of people and evolved his Blood Demon art. So, don't worry, with the base form Tanjiro's abilities, he will easily blitz through Kaigaku. Kaigaku is not as troublesome as Daki and Gyutaro. His speed might exceed Tanjiro's because of his experience with thunder breathing technique, but because of his arrogance and tendency to underestimate his opponents, he might throw a technique to capture Tanjiro and torture him in front of Zenitsu later. This would prove to be his downfall, as with one counter of Hinokami Kagura, Kaigaku's head will be separated from his body. Now, Tanjiro will be facing the troublesome Upper Moon 5 Gyoko. So what can Tanjiro do against one of the most annoying Upper Moons in terms of fighting style? Well, based on Gyoko's fight against the Miss Hashira, Muichiro, it's clear that the Miss Hashira is a perfect counter for Gyoko, but Tanjiro doesn't use mist breathing. Gyoko has the ability to teleport into different pots to avoid attacks, and when he touches something, it instantly transmutes into a fish. His poisons also make him extremely dangerous at close range. If any other Hashira were to fight Gyoko, he would most likely win, but the base form Tanjiro is not your average demon slayer and can be stronger than a Hashira. And considering Gyoko's egotistical nature, although it would still be a hard fight, where there'll be a moment where Tanjiro is trapped like Muichiro, he'll eventually emerge victorious by using sun breathing to push Gyoko into a corner and finish him off. However, he won't win without injuries. Pushing it a step further, let's talk about how Tanjiro will manage to defeat the Upper Moon 4, Hantengu. Well, Tanjiro's winning streak will probably come to an end at the hands of Hantengu. Just imagine fighting 4 demons, each comparable to Upper Moons, with different abilities, and if that isn't enough, Zohakuten. The final forms of his clones can utilize wood manipulation while using the Blood Demon art of the others. This virtually gives Hantengu an unpredictable attack pattern and near infinite combinations of how he'll use it against Tanjiro. But will Tanjiro be able to overcome Hantengu's assault? Well, on the off chance that Tanjiro manages to beat things to a standstill, he'll most likely run out of stamina and will overly fatigue from using Demon Slayer mark and sun breathing for an extended period of time. In this battle of attrition, Tanjiro won't be able to defeat Hantengu, suffering his first loss. Moving on to another Upper Moon 4, Nakime. How will Tanjiro manage to beat her? Well, there are 2 sub-scenarios this fight can go to. First, if it's an open field where there's nothing but Tanjiro and Nakime, Tanjiro will just blitz her into oblivion. But if they're inside the Infinity Castle, then things take a more interesting turn. In the event that they do fight inside the Infinity Castle, Tanjiro would stand no chance against her if he's alone. And why is that? Well, Nakame's Blood Demon art allows her to manipulate the castle where she could trap Tanjiro in an endless loop or crush him using the different parts of the structure, and it'll almost be impossible for Tanjiro to find her even with all the abilities he has for now. So in Tanjiro's base form, he can defeat 3 out of the 8 Upper Moons. What do you think about Tanjiro reaching his peak human form? It seems like he needs to enhance his abilities to take down the remaining demons, and that's where Tanjiro's peak human form comes in. In this form, he can utilize the 13th form of the sun breathing technique. Basically, he performs all 12 forms of sun breathing one after the other to improve his accuracy and agility and reduce fatigue. It was specifically developed to kill Muzan. Moreover, Tanjiro gains a transparent world ability, which allows him to predict his enemy's movements by looking inside his enemy's body. Not only that, Tanjiro will unlock the selfless state, which allows him to hide his fighting spirit, which is also considered to be the zenith of physical combat. But will Tanjiro's peak human form be enough to overcome the remaining formidable Upper Moon demons? Well, let's just say that using this form, Tanjiro will be able to beat Hantengu because now he has the ability to blitz all of them at once through the 13th form of sun breathing. Adding to that, he can also defeat Nakime by using the selfless state and launching a sneak attack and causing her to panic because of the PTSD. Eventually, Tanjiro will win against both of them and move on to the next Upper Moons. Now that Tanjiro, who's stronger than ever, is facing Akaza, the one who killed Rengoku, we have to ask the question as to how their battle will play out. Akaza is undoubtedly a formidable fighter with his Blood Demon art techniques like technique deployment and compass needle. However, peak human Tanjiro can handle him because Akaza Akaza respects strength and enjoys a fair fight without resorting to petty tricks. With Tanjiro's transparent world ability to counter Akaza's blows, the fight will be easier for Tanjiro. Not only that, in the manga, we witness Akaza being slowly overwhelmed by Tanjiro, who didn't even fully master the 13th form of sun breathing. So will Tanjiro win this matchup? Well, it's safe to say that it'll definitely be a fight where Akaza will be able to hold his own and even grow back his head, even if Tanjiro manages to cut it off. In the end, however, Tanjiro will emerge victorious as sun breathing along with Red Nichiren's sword can stop his regeneration. After Tanjiro defeated the battle maniac Akaza, how would he go against the emotionless but sadistic Doma? Well, Doma may resort to mental attacks and tricks like taking hostages. If he uses these tactics, there's a high possibility that Tanjiro could be defeated since he values the lives of others, especially his comrades. It's uncertain if Doma will use schemes, but let's focus a one-on-one fight between them. In the manga, we only caught a glimpse of Doma's full power because he got poisoned by Shinobu due to his arrogance and playfulness. This weakened him significantly. However, assuming he retains his personality while fighting against PQ and Tanjiro could surprise him with a decapitating slash using the 13th form of sun breathing, weakening him or even killing him instantly. But without considering Doma's personality, Tanjiro's chances died down. The fight would be extremely close, with Doma using his cryokinesis to keep Tanjiro from engaging in close-quarter combat while bombarding him with using his Water Lily Bodhisattva giant attacks. So, will Tanjiro's peak human form prove to be enough to overcome Doma's relentless onslaught? Well, things could go one way or the other, so this fight is a 50-50 result. So far, Tanjiro has 6 wins and 1 uncertain result out of the 8 Upper Moon demons, but we all know who he's coming up against. Now that Tanjiro is against the strongest demon other than Muzan, will he be able to survive this one? Well, even after the battle against the strongest Hashiras, Kokushibo wasn't completed, but just lost his will to live upon realizing the monstrous creature he had become. But what if that wasn't the case and he'll never consider to stop fighting? Well, considering Kokushibo has exceptional skills as a master swordsman with centuries of experience, mastery of the moon breathing technique, infinite stamina, enhanced regeneration, demon slayer mark, blood demon art, and the ability to the transparent world, I believe that Kokushibo would emerge as a victor in this fight against him. But is that really the case? Well, even if Tanjiro exerts his full strength and manages to land an attack using the 13th form of the sun breathing technique, Kokushibo's ability to heal himself and engage in an endurance battle by trading blows would give him the upper hand. There might be a chance Tanjiro can defeat Kokushibo if he gives his 110%, but if Kokushibo keeps on regeneration and possibly fully utilizing the monstrous form he showed off in the original timeline, then peak human Tanjiro would be defeated. But what if Tanjiro unleashed his strongest form? A form so strong that even Muzan believes that Tanjiro is the strongest being in the entire existence of the series. Yes, you know what we're talking about. Muzan himself again stated that if you don't like and subscribe to this channel, he will show up at your bed at night. So let's do it now. Yes, to fully overcome the remaining upper moons without further debate, Tanjiro needs to be in Demon King form, also known as Demon King Tanjiro. So just how strong is Demon King Tanjiro? Well, in this state, he becomes immune to the sun, possesses much stronger regeneration than Muzan, and gains all of Muzan's abilities. Essentially, Demon King Tanjiro represents a perfected form of Muzan, rendering him immortal and unbeatable within the Demon Slayer universe. The only way to defeat him is through a cure, which the Upper Moon demons do not possess. Best of all, he still has knowledge of sun breathing, if and only if he gains his consciousness and memories back. With his newfound power, Demon King Tanjiro can swiftly overpower Doma and Kokushibo, possibly even controlling them as he inherits all of Muzan's abilities. Moreover, he can potentially single-handedly destroy the Infinity Castle along with Nakime and blitz other annoying Upper Moons. In this form, Tanjiro is an unstoppable being capable of defeating all the Upper Moons, even if they were to join forces against him. Now, Demon King Tanjiro wins against all Upper Moons, even combined, but what if Yoriichi fought all of them? Can he win? Will the strongest Upper Moons be able to defeat the most powerful Demon Slayer in history? Take a look at our next video to find out. What if Demon King Tanjiro fought Yoriichi? Could Yoriichi blitz through Demon King Tanjiro as he did to Muzan, or will this be the first defeat for the strongest Demon Slayer? Then, the unthinkable happened. During the final arc of Demon Slayer, Tanjiro faced off against a formidable Muzan. The battle was fierce, and in a shocking turn of events, Muzan poisoned Tanjiro with his blood. Tanjiro's face swelled up, and he was on the brink of death, but in his unconscious state, he had a vision of the creator of sun breathing. This vision led him to a startling realization. His Hinokami Kagura was merely an imitation of the original sun breathing technique. Tanjiro, being the quick thinker that he is, managed to alter his technique, awakening the true power of the sun breathing technique. He cycled from the first form to the 12th form over and over again until he created a perfect 13th form to slay Muzan. And do you know what happened next? Well, as the sun began to rise, Tanjiro, with the help of the remaining Hashiras, Inosuke, and Zenitsu, pinned Muzan down. Muzan tried to shield himself from the sun by transforming into a giant baby, but it was too late, he began to burn away, marking the end of his reign of terror. But wait, the story doesn't end there. In a shocking twist of fate, Muzan's blood that entered Tanjiro's body turned him into a demon. The Demon Slayers discovered something truly mind-blowing. Tanjiro was immune to the sun. With his newfound immunity, Tanjiro gained all of the abilities of Muzan. Shape-shifting, regenerations, but do you know what the scariest part is? Well, Demon King Tanjiro doesn't have an actual weakness. With his immunity to the sun, he has become a perfect being, no longer vulnerable to the rays of sunlight along with Nichiren blades. Even the mighty Crimson Nichiren sword would be rendered useless against him. I guess you could say that Tanjiro really took the phrase, if you can't beat them, join them, to a whole new level. But things get even crazier, so stay tuned until the end. Have you ever wondered what it takes to become a legendary figure in the world of demon slaying? Well, let's delve into the captivating history and the awe-inspiring abilities of Yoriichi Sugikuni, the strongest demon slayer in the Demon Slayer universe. Yoriichi lived nearly 500 years ago during the Sengoku era, a time known as the golden age of demon slayers. He was not only a formidable warrior, but also the inventor of breathing styles, creating the very first breathing style that would later evolve into the powerful Hinokami Kagura used by Tanjiro Kamado in the Kamado family. At the tender age of just 7 years old, Yoriichi displayed his incredible prowess by effortlessly defeating a trained sword instructor. And get this, it was his very first time picking up a sword. Yoriichi was known for his calmness and for rarely showing outbreaks of emotion. This demeanor was evident in his ability to kill demons without changing his expression, leaving his opponents caught off guard by his immense skill. But did you know that Yoriichi's journey as a demon slayer began with a tragedy? Well, his wife and unborn child were devoured by demons, but did it break him? Well, it merely fueled him with determination to eradicate these vile creatures. But little did he know that this tragedy would shape him into an unstoppable force he would become. As an official demon slayer, Yoriichi possessed abilities that were beyond his imagination. Speed, strength, and mastery of demon slayer techniques left every demon he encounters trembling in fear. But on one fateful day, Yoriichi crossed paths with the Demon King himself, Muzan, accompanied by Lady Tamayo. In their battle, Yoriichi effortlessly overpowered Muzan, coming dangerously close to ending his reign of terror. But Muzan managed to escape, leaving behind deep wounds in his traumatized soul. Here's another interesting thing about Yoriichi. He was not only a force to be reckoned with, but he was also the first to process the coveted Demon Slayer mark. How did you think Yoriichi acquired it? Through rigorous training or through a life or death battle? Well, he already had it since birth. The mark amplified his already formidable abilities, making him an even greater threat to the demons that plague the world. Fast forward to Yoriichi's old age. As a fitting end for the strongest demon slayer, Yoriichi met his demise while standing tall, undefeated. With Yoriichi's status as the strongest demon slayer and the inventor of breathing styles, his battle against Demon King Tanjiro is bound to be one of the best battles yet in any manga. The knowledge and mastery of techniques that Yoriichi possesses will undoubtedly play a crucial role in this epic confrontation. Will Yoriichi's unparalleled skills be enough to kill the formidable Demon King Tanjiro, or will Tanjiro prove to be an insurmountable challenge? Who will emerge victorious? Well, this will be a battle between the strongest demon slayer to ever exist and the strongest demon to ever set his eyes on the world. The knowledge and mastery of techniques that Yoriichi possesses will undoubtedly play a crucial role in this epic confrontation. Now, let's dive into the intense fight between Yoriichi and Demon King Tanjiro. While Yoriichi may possess greater attack power and superior techniques, the outcome of this battle is far from certain. But why is that? Well, Yoriichi is undeniably a formidable opponent. With his incredible speed, vast experience, and mastery of sun breathing, his skills as a fighter surpasses those of Demon King Tanjiro. However, in a fight to the death, Yoriichi's human limitations come into play. Yoriichi, being human, will eventually succumb to fatigue and exhaustion, leading to his eventual demise. On the other hand, Demon King Tanjiro is essentially immortal. He does not age, possesses no known weaknesses, and the only way to truly defeat him is to find a way to cure him or eradicate every single demon cell within him. Let's consider another way to defeat the unstoppable Demon King Tanjiro. One possibility that comes to mind is the use of the Wisteria tree. We know that the poison from the Wisteria can greatly damage demons and even kill them. So what if he had a sword embedded or made out of Wisteria? Could that potentially defeat Demon King Tanjiro, even in the hands of the legendary demon slayer Yoriichi? Well, the only issue is that the Wisteria poison seems to have a limited effect on the upper moon demons, such as Doma. Even with the high dose of Wisteria poison, it only weakens them, and it's not a direct cause of their death. Upper moon demons possess unimaginable regeneration power that essentially nullifies the damage from the Wisteria poison. So even if Yoriichi were to wield a sword embedded or made out of Wisteria, it may not make a significant difference against Demon King Tanjiro. While it could potentially cause him pain, Tanjiro's incredible regeneration abilities would likely allow him to heal from the damage inflicted by the wisteria poison, so his only option is to destroy every single cell of Muzan's blood within him. But have you ever wondered how Yoriichi's attacks could fare against Tanjiro's immortality? Demon King Tanjiro's immortality extends even to sunlight, making it challenging for Yoriichi to deal fatal damage to this unstoppable immortal demon. Demons like Tanjiro have the ability to heal instantly, as seen when Akaza destroyed Doma's jaw, only for it to regenerate in the blink of an eye. Yoriichi's attacks may face a similar fate against Demon King Tanjiro. It is only worth noting that Yoriichi's attacks were effective against Muzan due to the bright red Nichiren sword. However, even then, Yoriichi was unable to kill Muzan. Now with Demon King Tanjiro lacking that weakness, it becomes even more challenging for Yoriichi to land a fatal blow. While the battle may not be easy for Tanjiro, he possesses the advantage of immortality and the ability to continuously damage Yoriichi over time. A battle of endurance could be the path to victory. So how would the fight go down? Well, to summarize their fight, Yoriichi and Demon King Tanjiro clash with an intensity that shakes the very foundation of their surroundings. Yoriichi, the creator of sun breathing, unleashes the full power of his technique, utilizing the 13th forms with unparalleled skill and precision. Each strike slices through the air with blinding speed, aiming to dismantle Tanjiro's defenses. Will Yoriichi's unmatched skill and precision be enough to eradicate every cell of Demon King Tanjiro? Well, in the midst of their battle, Yoriichi's mastery of sun breathing becomes more evident. He effortlessly transitions from one attack to another, showcasing the forms of sun breathing. We've got the clear blue sky, the raging sun, and the fake rainbow. Each form carries its own unique strength and purpose, delivering devastating blows to Demon King Tanjiro. But in his crazed state, Tanjiro fights back with the ferocity fueled by his demonic powers. His bone blade whip and sharp nails become deadlier weapons, aiming to pierce through Yoriichi's defenses. Despite Yoriichi's superior technique, Tanjiro's relentless attacks manage to land a few hits, leaving Yoriichi with wounds that slowly accumulate over time. The battle intensifies as Yoriichi encounters Tanjiro's onslaught with the flame dance form of sun breathing, engulfing the battlefield in a blaze of fiery power. But even as Yoriichi's strikes slice up Tanjiro, there's no real damage. Why? Well, as I said before, this is because of the immunity to the sun, therefore making him immune to Nichiren swords. This is also because of his unmatched regeneration, shrugging off damage inflicted upon him. The clash between Yoriichi and Demon King Tanjiro reaches its climax, both pushing themselves to their limits, their determination unwavering. But the toll starts to show on Yoriichi. Exhaustion sets in, and his movements begin to slow down ever so slightly. This is because he has also been using the transparent world along with his other abilities, which take quite a toll on the user, especially in a drawn-out fight. Sensing an opportunity, Tanjiro seizes a moment and strikes with all of his might, delivering a fatal blow to Yoriichi. So is this the end for Yoriichi? Well, with an unexpected turn of events, Yoriichi manages to counter it using the same technique he did on Muzan, whereby combining all forms of sun breathing, he could slice Tanjiro into the molecular level, disintegrating every demon cell within his body and cutting up his brain and heart. The accumulated hits from his bone blade whip and sharp nails, combined with his immortality, may have proven to give Yoriichi a lot of trouble, but the strongest demon slayer is still the victor. The battle between these two extraordinary beings showcase their immense power and resilience they possess. Comment down below what your thoughts are about this fight, and let us know if you have some interesting ideas on how to kill Demon King Tanjiro. But have you ever wondered what would happen if instead of Yoriichi, Demon King Tanjiro fought all of the upper moons? Check out our next video. That's done, let's start off with the first scenario. What would happen if Demon King Tanjiro fought Muzan after he was poisoned by Tamayo? For the sake of the story, there won't be any other characters involved, and it's just a 1v1. They're going to fight at night, and Muzan can't use his blood to control or hurt Tanjiro because that would be an auto win for Muzan. So let's analyze our fighters. Just how strong is Demon King Tanjiro? Well, we didn't see a lot of Demon King Tanjiro, and he quickly disappeared and didn't deal that much damage. But what we can say is that he was potentially the strongest demon in all of Demon Slayer's history. But why? Well, Tanjiro is immune to sunlight, something that Muzan couldn't even achieve. And since no one else knows sun breathing, he's basically immortal. But what about his blood demon art and fighting style? Well, Tanjiro's blood demon art is just like Muzan's as well, which is biokinesis, where he can manipulate his body and flesh. He also uses a short to mid-range fighting style. So what's the difference between him and Muzan? Well, it's because Tanjiro has knowledge of sun breathing. If Tanjiro came to his senses and accepted being a demon, then he would basically be like Kokushibo and Muzan mixed together and on steroids. But what about Muzan? Well, if you've read the manga, especially the final battle in the Infinity Castle, Muzan's strength is nothing to laugh at. Even if he was weakened by Tamayo's poison, he went on to massacre hundreds of demon slayers and fended off the strongest Hashiras. His abilities include the whips just like Tanjiro's, infinite regeneration, unlimited stamina, biokinesis, genius intellect, and a shockwave energy blast. But I know what you're thinking. All of those are just like Tanjiro's skills. Well, Muzan has one thing that may put him at an advantage, and that's his battle IQ and experience. With all the fighters set, we can finally answer the question, who will win in a fight between Demon King Tanjiro and a weakened Muzan? Well, the fight would go like this. Just as Tanjiro transforms into a demon, he'll go berserk just like he did in the original manga. Tanjiro would go ahead and fight Muzan head-on, charging like a wild beast. Muzan can then easily predict his movements and pull off a counterattack that might cut off every limb Tanjiro has. And take note, Muzan's still in his base Michael Jackson form, so will it be that easy? Well, not so much, because just like Muzan, Demon King Tanjiro has overpowered regeneration. As the fight drags on, it'll be a battle of pure stamina and will, where Muzan might feel like he's duking it out with nothing more than a mindless demon. But everything ends there. So what would be the trigger for such a drastic turn of events? Well, everything would change if and only if Tanjiro gains consciousness and breaks free from his berserk state. When this happens, the fight will definitely take a turn for the worse for Muzan. Tanjiro would just be like Kokushibo, an overpowered demon swordsmith, but multiply that to 100. Remember, Tanjiro knows sun breathing, and not only that, he acts as a transparent world and demon slayer mark, so now he has Yoriichi and Muzan's abilities without both their weaknesses, old age, and the sun. But does Muzan just lose from here on? Well, Muzan would still put up a fight, especially if he activates his combat form. In the manga, Tanjiro wasn't as fast as Muzan, especially since even Giyu had time to save the others before Tanjiro killed them with his whips. So Muzan has speed and battle IQ, while Tanjiro has firepower and durability. Muzan could potentially use his advantages to quickly immobilize Tanjiro before he could adjust to his current state, but how would he deal the killing blow? Well, that's one question that Muzan won't get an answer to. In chapter 202 of the manga, both Yushiro and Giyu acknowledge that because of Tanjiro's resistance to sunlight and his potential to evolve, he's practically immortal because even bright red Nichiren swords aren't effective against him. Now that Tanjiro can't be killed, how will the battle end? Well, once Tanjiro gets used to his demonic form, Poison Muzan is probably going to go down. Human Tanjiro was no match for Muzan in a 1v1, but now with his increased speed and strength, decapitating Muzan would be no problem at all. However, there might be something more interesting that has a higher chance of happening. Instead of relying on his Demon Slayer techniques, Tanjiro might choose to use his newfound demonic abilities because he still can't use his body properly to execute breathing styles. But you might see him using that in the next scenario. This fight would be a lot more entertaining, and instead of decapitating, Muzan would just be sliced up into bits. Tanjiro could just slash him using his whips out of existence. But is that enough? Well, even if Muzan regenerates, Tanjiro has unlimited stamina and can just keep Muzan immobilized until the sun comes up. In the end, Muzan will be disintegrated and there will be a new Demon King that'll wreak havoc in the world of Demon Slayer. Now, Poison Muzan wasn't nearly as strong as him in his prime, but he was still able to put up a fight against Tanjiro. But now, what would happen if Demon King Tanjiro fought a full-powered Muzan? Would there be any difference, and could Muzan turn the tables? Well, let's go ahead and take a look. In this current fight, there will be a lot of similarities with the first scenario, but there will be some major differences as well, so keep watching to find out. One of the major differences in this scenario is that Muzan wasn't poisoned by Tamayo and is feeling the best he's ever been. But what difference would this make? Well, Muzan would be faster and stronger. His regeneration would be even more effective, and most of all, his blood demon art would be more powerful. What about Tanjiro? Well, Tanjiro will start off more or less the same, going berserk and having the same abilities as mentioned before. So what would happen in this battle? Well, to start things off, Tanjiro would do the same things he did in the first scenario, by charging Muzan head on, and Muzan just countering his every move, but this time, Muzan's attacks are deadlier and cause more damage. Moving past that, what would Tanjiro do if he came to his senses? Well, this is when things become interesting, and this is the key difference in both scenarios. As Tanjiro comes to his senses, he'll also try to rely on his demon powers because he still hasn't gotten used to his new body, but instead of Muzan getting beaten, Tanjiro would just get absolutely demolished by Muzan. Why? Well, Muzan without being weakened is a different beast of his own. In the Demon Slayer second fan book, it was said that Muzan's mastery of his own blood demon art is so advanced that he can create puppets of flesh and command them. Now, we didn't see that in the original series, and it might be because of Tamayo's poison, but he could definitely use that now. With Muzan going all out in his combat form, Tanjiro, while only using his demon powers, would likely stand no chance and just get beaten to a pulp. If it wasn't for his insane regeneration, Tanjiro would have died more than a dozen times by now. So how could Tanjiro turn the tables on Muzan? Well, we've mentioned mentioned it before that it's happening now. Tanjiro will likely use sun breathing and his other Demon Slayer techniques after he has some time to adjust. Sun breathing is the only breathing style that can severely damage Muzan, where when it was used by Yoriichi, he was able to burn Muzan to a cellular level. Not only that, the transparent world also allows Tanjiro to predict Muzan's movements, and instead of wildly attacking, he can use both his sun breathing and blood demon art to effectively attack Muzan. But will Muzan get beaten again just like that? Well, not quite. You see, Muzan when he was poisoned was biologically aged over 9,000 years, and now he's in tip-top shape. He'll have more ways to use his blood demon art other than clones and whips, unlike in the original series. Just like he did in the Lower Moon meeting, Muzan will most likely transform his body parts as well as that of his clones into some horrific monsters to outnumber Tanjiro and match his firepower. You might even see around 3 to 5 combat form Muzans all trying to fight Tanjiro at once. So will Muzan finally get a win? Well, sorry to say Muzan simps, but Tanjiro mentioned before is basically immortal. No matter what Muzan throws at him, he can simply regenerate and fight back. Tanjiro, especially with his 13th form of sun breathing, is in a league of his own. While Muzan can barely be damaged by the sun breathing, and when most of his 7 hearts and 5 brains are destroyed, he'll be weakened. But you might think Muzan escaped Yoriichi, then he can escape Tanjiro. Well, Muzan escaped Yoriichi because Yoriichi was talking to Tamayo, and now that Tanjiro's locked onto him, even if he splits himself into over 1,000 pieces, he can still be caught. In the end, Muzan will be defeated once again, and there are 2 ways he can die. First is that he'll be killed by sun breathing after Tanjiro will dice him up into a cellular level. Or the other way is just like the first scenario. Tanjiro will immobilize him so he'll die by the sunlight. So that's it for what would happen if Demon King Tanjiro and Muzan fought. It's a 2-0 score, and Tanjiro would have been a horrifying villain to fight if not for Kanao and Nezuko.
At last, we have 1 hour of Demon Slayer what-ifs you can't stop watching.
Do you ever wonder what would happen if Tanjiro failed to kill Hantengu? Or what if Nezuko didn't conquer the sun? And best of all, what would happen if our dear Mitsuri died fighting Hantengu? Well, after spending an unhealthy amount of time doing the research, these are the possible outcomes. The battle between Muichiro and Gyoko begins. Gyoko unleashes a surprise attack on our Miss Hashira and traps him in his water prison pot, using his blood demon art to deprive Muichiro of oxygen. Except that in this timeline, Tanjiro's swordsmith, Hotaru, will be killed because Gyoko didn't waste any time talking and proceeded to kill Hagan Nezuka in the shed. But Muichiro will still avenge him by also killing the Upper Moon 5. However, Muichiro will be too tired to stand and collapse, and despite his win, he will fail to deliver Tanjiro's sword. Moving on to the battle between Tanjiro and Hantengu. When they fall off the cliff, Tanjiro dashed to Hantengu with speed and cut him off without him realizing he did not kill the actual body. Then suddenly, the sun rises, giving them a ray of hope. But following the main timeline, Nezuko kicks Tanjiro to chase Hantengu. Fortunately, Tanjiro reaches his blade against the demon's neck to secure his kill. But wait, are we forgetting something? Well, since Muichiro failed to protect Hotaru in the battle against Gyoko, the final weapon that can really cut Hantengu wouldn't have been delivered to him. Tanjiro would be able to reach his neck, but he wouldn't be able to cut it successfully, allowing Hantengu to devour the humans on the other side of the field and make his escape. Now what happens to Hantengu? Unfortunately, he makes his escape and reports the result to a satisfied Muzan, since despite there was no information on the blue spider lily, they still managed to wreak havoc on a vital part of the Demon Slayer Corps. This will bring a great impact in the final battle. But before we further explain how the final battle will change, let's first discuss what would happen to Nezuko if she never conquered the sun. Tanjiro rushes towards Hantengu after being catapulted in his direction by Nezuko. Tanjiro, using his sun breathing, immediately gathers momentum by spinning his body in midair and cuts Urami in half while simultaneously beheading Hantengu in his heart as well. Zohakuten vanishes off the face of the earth while Mitsuri manages to sneak in a victory by a hair. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, after making sure that the swordsmiths were okay, Tanjiro rushes towards his sister in order to see her for the last time. As he turns and dashes back, he notices a scene that makes the memories of that fateful day when his family got massacred once again rush back into his mind. Tears flow down Tanjiro's eyes as he notices Nezuko's body half burnt and his dear sister struggling to hold on to her remaining breaths while her brother watches hopelessly. Tanjiro drops to his knees, and as he moves forward to hug his little sister for the very last time, the remaining pieces of her body turn into ash, snatching away Tanjiro's final chance to embrace his little sister. Tanjiro lets out a scream as the Hashiras and the swordsmiths watch him helplessly from afar. Due to Nezuko being unable to conquer the sun, Muzan doesn't show interest in destroying the Demon Slayers completely at that given moment, and goes on with his quest to find the blue spider lilies. Meanwhile, finding out about the Demon Slayer mark, the Hashira start training toward achieving this state, with most of them successfully gaining the abilities to summon it willingly in about a month. Tanjiro receives a proposal from Kagaya, where he reveals that he's planning to promote him to the rank of a Hashira, as he was the one who fought off multiple clones of Hantengu and beheaded him in the end. Struck with the grief of his sister's death and the guilt of not being strong enough to save her, even after swearing to take care of her in front of his dead mother, Tanjiro refuses to accept the promotion, much like his senpai Giyu, for several months. However, after ignoring mission requests and training his body mercilessly for half a year, Tanjiro is approached by Giyu, Inosuke, and Zenitsu. They try their best to convince him to move on with his life. However, Tanjiro had lost the strength to live. As the three of them talked with Tanjiro, Kagaya enters the room with his wife and a mysterious black-haired boy. Kagaya, sparing no time to settle in, announces that his death is near and that the boy, whose name is Kirya, will take over as the leader from here on out. Everyone is shocked. However, Kagaya, with a bright smile on his face, asks Tanjiro to accept the offer to be a Hashira. He wants Kiraya's first act as leader to be appointing Tanjiro to the rank of Hashira. Tanjiro, looking at the face of Kiraya, reminisces of his time with his siblings and accepts the post of Hashira, with Tanjiro picking up the sword once again as a Hashira and the Demon Slayer mark spreading like wildfire within the Demon Slayers. A new era of Slayer dominance starts flooding the whole of Japan, just like the Sengoku era. This forces Muzan to retreat back to the Infinity Castle for another 64 years due to the raging fear of one man and one man only, Tanjiro Kamada. During these 64 years, the ranks of the Upper Moons were never fully replenished, as they kept dying after encountering marked Demon Slayers. With only the 3 Upper Moons surviving the wretched century, Tanjiro passes on to the afterlife due to natural causes at the age of 80, outliving every marked Demon Slayer and passing the torch of the breath of the flame to the will of destiny. At this point, Muzan would come out of hiding and ultimately end up ruling over the world. Wow, so this is a really bad ending. You need to take you by surprise. What if Mitsuri died fighting Hantengu before Tanjiro managed to kill him? Will Zohakuten kill everyone, or will the Slayers come out on top? Let's find out. Mitsuri, while fighting Zohakuten, starts getting pushed back as Zohakuten combines his wooden dragons with his supersonic scream abilities. Mitsuri tries her best to hinder Zohakuten's efforts. However, Mitsuri's attacks soon start to dull as Zohakuten pushes her back. Finally, Zohakuten prepares to lash out another one of his supersonic screams, forcing Mitsuri to take cover. As Mitsuri changes her direction to avoid the scream, a smirk shines across Zohakuten's face as he feigns the scream. Just like in the original timeline, when the sun was about to come up, Mitsuri gave up fighting and apologized to everyone. However, in this timeline, Mitsuri got devoured by Zohakuten because Tanjiro failed to kill Hantengu. Zohakuten moves on to the cliff, where he notices Tanjiro running towards Urami in order to behead him. Genya once again tries to stop Zohakuten in his tracks. However, he attacks him with one of his wooden dragons. Genya successfully manages to evade the dragon. Genya looks back to inquire. However, much to his horror, he notices that Kanamori is crushed by the dragon's head. Genya once again refocuses his attention towards Zohakuten. However, he had already jumped the cliff to head towards Tanjiro. This is where Zohakuten attacked Tanjiro, but Tanjiro dodged his attacks. However, Zohakuten successfully saved his original body, Hantengu, and made a run for it. And let's assume in this scenario too, Nezuko didn't conquer the sun. So coming back to the first fight scenario, Hantengu makes his escape and reports the results to Muzan, and he never knew about Nezuko's immunity because it didn't happen. In summary, we experienced 2 major character deaths with Mitsuri and Nezuko. Well, the headquarters will turn into an uproar, grieving from the loss in their comrades. In response, they train as hard as they can, which leads us to the Hashira training arc. An angry Tanjiro is affected by this as well, having his dear sister, who went through so many hardships with him, finally die in his arms. What he's focused on now is just revenge, and finally giving Muzan what he deserves. But aside from our main character, this is also especially true for a certain Hashira. Can you guess who it is? Well, it's Obanai, since we all know that he has feelings for Mitsuri. He will be motivated to extremely train his strength past his limits and finally get that Demon Slayer mark much earlier than in the original series. This gives him the upper hand to develop it in the following battles, so that no other human will feel the same loss he felt. But aside from that, the arc goes normally as it would. The Demon Slayer Corps train to the best of their abilities to be battle ready against the demon's threat. Now, on to the final showdown, the Infinity Castle arc. In this timeline presents higher stakes for our heroes with the addition of Hantengu's clones. But the bulk of the matchups will continue in the original timeline. So, which battles will change drastically for our heroes? Well, let's start with our first showdown, to the escaped Hantengu. But I have a feeling we already know what's coming for him. Well, he's gonna be a walking dead man, since Obanai has diligently prepared for the day that
that he gets to face Mitsuri's killer. But will Obanai truly be able to avenge his lover's death? Well, absolutely, since Obanai's skills are better than most Hashiras, seeing as in the original timeline in the fight against Muzan, he was able to hold his own against the Demon King for a short period of time. Hantengu will deploy all his clones and eventually activate Zohakuten as he unleashes his ferocious skills. But will this be enough to wreck this version of Obanai? Well, that's an easy question. Of course not. Let's not forget that this Obanai is improved by his early Demon Slayer mark and shared knowledge on Hantengu's abilities that will bring nothing but an easy kill to his lover's killer, especially since Obanai's quick and deadly serpent breathing technique serves to be a menace in rooting out Hantengu's original form. The fight against Kokushibo and Doma will still follow as the original timeline, with the Hashiras like in the original timeline dying. So, are our heroes in the clear? Well, not yet, as the Infinity Castle is not without its master. Namake, the Biwa lady, comes across a wounded Obanai, and just as the exhausted Serpent Hashira can't get enough, he switches to defensive mode in order to preserve energy, defending himself against the castle, twisting and turning against him. But will a wounded Obanai be enough? Well, aside from the Demon Slayers, we also have some good demons on our side that level the competition, like Lady Tamayo, who weakened Muzan, but it is her assistant Yushiro who helps defeat Nakime, as he applies a talisman over her eyes and basically overrides her control to the Infinity Castle, which allows the Demon Slayers to gain the upper hand and save Obanai. But is the increase in odds enough for the final confrontation? Well, with the remaining wounded and exhausted heroes, we see a slim chance of surviving Muzan's onslaught. The fight will progress a lot harder because there is one less Hashira to fight Muzan, and a wounded Obanai too. Maybe they'll be able to hold him out until sunrise. This might lead you to think that our journey is all good and done, but not exactly, as we still have one final hurdle remaining: Tanjiro turning into a demon. Unfortunately, Tanjiro's anger doesn't just give him a boost to his combat capabilities, but also gives him the worst side effect of being engulfed by it. This is because in the original timeline, Nezuko was supposed to be his anchor, which eventually helped him overcome his demonization on top of Kanao's injection. Adding to that, Nezuko isn't here anymore to stop him from moving and attacking the others. Unfortunately, in this timeline, without Nezuko's presence, Tanjiro is able to succeed in his complete demonization, all while causing the deaths of Inosuke, Zenitsu, Kanao, and all the Demon Slayer Corps who he once called family. In this major turn of events, he takes over Muzan's will and powers and transforms humanity into a whole new horrific demon era, with a Demon King who can now walk the sun to eternity. But could things get even better? Well, click on this video to see how Tanjiro alone will go against all the Upper Moons. Arigato!
What would happen if Nezuko fought every single Upper Moon in Demon Slayer? Who could she beat, and who would beat her? Well, I've split Nezuko into 4 levels of strength, so let's start off at Nezuko's weakest form. Can she even defeat one Upper Moon? She's got no flames, no horn, no advanced regeneration, meaning that against most of the Upper Moons, she would get completely destroyed. But there are 2 demons she might have a chance against. Daki would underestimate her because of Nezuko's childlike appearance. She might get caught off guard by a surprise kick, but Nezuko's lack of technique means she wouldn't last long. Gyoko also wouldn't take her seriously. His vase techniques would confuse her, and even if she landed a hit, he'd just teleport away or regenerate instantly. So out of the 6 Upper Moons, at level 1, Nezuko wouldn't be able to kill a single one. This is just level 1 Nezuko. We still have 3 more forms to go until we reach her strongest version. Nezuko's second form is where things start to change. She now has her Blood Demon art, Exploding Blood, along with much faster regeneration and far stronger physical power. She also enters her Berserk mode, where a horn grows from her head, her limbs are covered in vine-like tattoos, and she becomes nearly uncontrollable. This is the form she used to fight Daki in the anime, and in this form, she could absolutely kill her. Daki would attack first using her Obi slashes to try and slice Nezuko apart, but Nezuko's new regeneration means she'd recover almost instantly. Even when she was split in half by Daki in the anime, she managed to pull her body back together with her own blood and reattach herself. Nezuko would then counter with a devastating kick strong enough to smash Daki through several buildings and even sever her head in one hit. Daki would regenerate but now be on the defensive. Nezuko's flames would burn through her Obi sashes and stop them from regenerating quickly, making each hit more effective. The fight would only last a minute before Daki is overwhelmed and defeated. But this fight isn't over yet. Gyutaro would then emerge from her body, and this is where things get dangerous. Gyutaro's blood sickles are coated in deadly poison, and he's much faster and stronger than Daki. Nezuko would struggle here because she still doesn't have full control over her berserk state, and her flames take a toll on her body. The fight would be intense. Nezuko would land a few solid hits, but Gyutaro would stab her with his poison sickles. Eventually, her regeneration would slow down, and she would fall unconscious unconscious, meaning that in this form, Nezuko can kill Daki but loses to Gyutaro. Kaigaku is the newest Upper Moon. He took Gyutaro's place as Upper Moon 6, and while he's not as experienced, his potential is scary. He was a former demon slayer, trained in thunder breathing, and after turning into a demon, he developed the blood demon art that lets him control black lightning. His attacks are fast, wide-ranged, and leave behind electricity that burns and tears the body. He completely overpowered Zenitsu at the start of their fight, but when he faces second form Nezuko, things go differently. The fight would start fast. Kaigaku keeps his distance, firing Thunder Swarm and Distant Thunder. Each strike lands and shocks Nezuko's body, but Nezuko doesn't go down. She charges through it like she did against Daki, regenerating instantly and tackling Kaigaku mid-attack. He tries to use Heat Lightning to break free, but Nezuko slams him to the ground and ignites her blood, setting his body on fire. Kaigaku panics. He's not used to fighting demons, especially one that doesn't flinch. He goes for his ultimate, Rumble and Flash, a series of massive lightning blasts. But Nezuko takes the hit, and while her body is burning, she reforms mid-air and finishes with an axe kick that caves in his skull. Kaigaku's regeneration activates, but the exploding blood slows it too much. He gets burned before he can fight back. So even though level 2 Nezuko loses to Gyutaro, she defeats Kaigaku because his attacks lack the poison, and his inexperience costs him the fight. Can level 2 Nezuko defeat Gyoko? At level 2, Nezuko has raw power, exploding blood, and insane physical strength, but she lacks control and strategy. That's a problem against Gyoko. Gyoko's fighting style is bizarre. He attacks with fish demons, ink bullets, and teleportation. And if things go bad, he transforms into his true form, where he gains massive speed and can crush opponents with his fists. Level 2 Nezuko might surprise him with her berserk strength. She could destroy his vases and burn his summoned fish. But Gyoko would just teleport away, regenerate his pots, and attack from a new angle. Eventually, he'd hit her with poison ink and explosive fish, and her lack of tactical awareness would leave her open. Even her exploding blood wouldn't be enough because she'd missed too many chances. So at level 2, Nezuko loses to Gyoko. But what about Form 3 Nezuko? This is a totally different fight. Form 3 Nezuko is where she becomes a real threat. This is the version that fought in the Swordsmith Village arc. She now has full control over her demon transformation, meaning she can use her flames without going berserk. She also has regeneration on par with the Upper Moons and can fight while thinking strategically. On top of that, her flames can now delay the regeneration of other demons and enhance Nichiren weapons. This is the strongest version of Nezuko before she becomes immune to sunlight. She dodged the fish summons, burned the ink with her exploding blood, and destroyed each pot before Gyoko could teleport again. If Gyoko transformed, she'd meet him head on, and this time her regeneration in flames would let her tank his blows and burn him faster than he can heal. In this form, Nezuko's blood demon art would give her the edge. She'd bait Gyoko into attacking, then explode her own blood on his body, melting his limbs and burning his core until it couldn't regenerate anymore. So, Form 3 Nezuko defeats Gyoko. Next up, we'll see what happens when level 3 Nezuko takes on Hantengu and all of his emotion clones. This is where things start to get wild. Against Hantengu, she would be fighting 4 powerful clones at once, each with unique abilities. Sekito has lightning attacks, Karaku uses wind blasts, Aizetsu has long-range yachty techniques, and Irogi has flight and sonic attacks. In the Swordsmith village, Nezuko was already able to hold her own against multiple clones, even saving Tanjiro from being crushed by Zohakuten. This time, without needing to protect anyone, she could go all out. She'd start by targeting Karaku, using her kicks to break his fan and her flames to burn his body. Aizetsu would try to impale her, but she'd dodge and counter with a flaming slash that stops his regen. Urogi's sonic scream would disorient her, but her regeneration would recover fast enough to keep fighting. Sekito's lightning would be the real problem. It could paralyze her briefly, allowing the other clones to attack. But Nezuko's exploding blood could burn all of them at once if timed right. She would eventually burn through each of the regeneration windows one by one, but the fight wouldn't end there. Once the 4 clones are weakened, Sekito would absorb the rest and become Zohakuten, the fusion form. This version can summon wooden dragons, each using a different ability. Zohakuten would be the strongest opponent Nezuko has faced so far. His range and power would overwhelm her, and unless she burns the wooden dragons, she wouldn't be able to reach him. If she combines her physical strength with a full-body flame burst, she might be able to injure him. But even then, Zohakuten would regenerate too quickly. Eventually, Nezuko's stamina would run out, and she would collapse. So while Form 3 Nezuko could defeat the clones individually, she would lose to Zohakuten. Nakime is tricky. She's not a direct fighter. She's the Upper Moon 4 after Hantengu's death, and her entire blood demon art is spatial manipulation. She controls the Infinity Castle, can teleport anywhere, reshape rooms, and trap her enemies by constantly shifting the environment. She was able to restrain multiple Hashira at once, and she nearly caught Obanai and Mitsuri without even fighting. Her strategy is pure defense and control, while using her Biwa to change the battlefield and crush opponents. Against Form 3 Nezuko, this would be a strange fight. Nakime wouldn't attack directly, she'd teleport Nezuko over and over, dropping walls, twisting the floor, and trying to disorient her. Nezuko would respond by exploding blood across surfaces, burning through the castle, and slowing Nakime's control. She could tank falling debris and regenerate from crushing damage. But the real advantage is that Nezuko doesn't need to find her. Nakime's brain is outside her body. If Nezuko can sense the Biwa sound or catch her actual body even once, she could finish the fight. This version of Nezuko has the awareness and control to figure that out. Eventually, she'd destroy enough of the castle to expose Nakime's location, rush her, and burn her with exploding blood before she could teleport again. So, against Nakime, Form 3 Nezuko wins. But it would take time, and it wouldn't be easy. Nakime's down, and that just leaves the top 3 upper moons, Akaza, Doma, and Kokushibo. In this fight, Form 3 Nezuko would get obliterated and be finished in second. But what if she unlocked her final form? Sunlight Immune Nezuko at full power? Could she defeat the rest of the upper moons? Akaza, Doma, and Kokushibo? Form 4 Nezuko is her strongest version. This is the form where she becomes immune to sunlight, something no demon has ever done. In this state, she retains full control over her powers. Her regeneration is instant. Her strength rivals the upper moons, and her blood demon art can burn through even the toughest enemies. This is the form that marks her as a true monster. Now, how will she go against Akaza? Akaza is built different. He's not just strong, he's adaptive, fast, and durable beyond reason. His technique development lets him read battle patterns and predict movements like a living combat AI. Nezuko's unpredictability helps her early on. She dodges a few hits, lands a strong kick, burns his arm with exploding blood, but Akaza adapts fast. His body adjusts to her timing, and his compass needle starts predicting her movement. She uses flames to push back, but Akaza's regeneration keeps up, and he gets stronger the longer he fights. Meanwhile, Nezuko starts slowing down. Her biggest weakness is stamina. She has power, but not endurance for drawn-out battles. Akaza has both. He tanks her flames, gets back up, and starts landing clean hits. One punch breaks her ribs, one kick crushes her skull. She regenerates, but slower each time, and her flames start losing effect. In the end, Akaza overwhelms her, breaking her body down bit by bit until she can't get up anymore. So even after all this, Akaza would still lose. Do you know why? Well, if you remember, Akaza does not fight women, so he will just let her win. And also, you should subscribe now before we see Doma's fight, so do so now! Doma is the second strongest demon in the 12 Kizuki, and he's the most dangerous one Nezuko would ever face. She enters the fight in her final form, Sunlight Immune, fully conscious, perfect regeneration, and complete mastery over exploding blood. And for the first minute, it looks like she's winning. Her flames melt through the ice, her strength cracks his clones, and her regeneration negates his constant area attacks. But Doma is unlike any other upper moon. He doesn't feel pain, he doesn't feel anger, and he doesn't get caught off guard. His ice is deadly, but it's not the raw damage that's the problem. It's how it spreads. How it creeps into every corner of the battlefield. Into Nezuko's lungs, into her blood, into her limbs. Her flames can melt it, but not fast enough, because Doma doesn't stop. He floods the entire space with cold mist, lotus flowers, fans, ice spears, everything at once. Nezuko burns through waves of it again and again, but each time she does, she loses stamina. And unlike Doma, she needs to breathe, to think, to move. Eventually, her movements slow, her flames shrink, and Doma starts freezing her regeneration. One cut becomes two. Two cuts stop healing, and the ice builds faster than she can melt it. She lands one final kick, burns his chest, nearly blows his head off, but he reforms midair, smiling like nothing happened. And that's the problem. Doma doesn't get tired. Nezuko does, so in the end, she's still standing, but she can't win. She can't kill him, and Doma walks away as the victor. So even in her strongest state, Nezuko can't defeat Akaza or Doma. She might survive, but can't finish them. But what of Kokushibo?
Kokushibo!
The strongest demon beneath Muzan. The demon who defeated multiple Hashiras and lived for over 400 years. Can Nezuko beat him? Kokushibo is on a different level than every other upper moon. He was once a demon slayer and the brother of the sun-breathing founder, Yoriichi Sugikuni. After turning into a demon, he kept all of his combat skills and gained a blood demon art that allowed him to create crescent blades with each sword swing. Nezuko's flames won't help much here. Kokushibo's attacks don't rely on poison or ice. They're pure swordsmanship, enhanced with deadly range and overwhelming speed. He can launch multiple slashes from a single swing, each with unpredictable angles that would slice through buildings and even other upper moons. At the start, Nezuko would dodge a few attacks, maybe land a hit or two. Her speed and regeneration would keep her alive longer than most, but Kokushibo wouldn't get serious until he sees her survive the first barrage. Then he would activate his true form, a monstrous body covered in eyes, with a sword grown from his flesh. At that point, the fight would shift. Kokushibo's reaction speed would surpass even her regeneration. He could cut her into pieces faster than she could reattach them. Even her exploding blood wouldn't burn fast enough to stop his healing. And with no sword, she wouldn't be able to clash with his red blade. Nezuko would keep fighting because she doesn't know how to quit. But in the end, Kokushibo's experience and technique would be too much for even her final form. So in the end, Sunlight Immune Nezuko loses to Kokushibo. What do you think? And who will win? But what if Tanjiro fought them instead? We'll click on this video to watch it.
What would happen if the legendary Yoriichi fought against the entire might of the Upper Moons? Could he be able to beat each one of them? Being the man who defeated the Demon King and gave him PTSD, I think the odds are totally in his favor. But is fighting one villain the same as fighting all of them at once? Starting with the lowest rank among the Upper Moons, what consequences do you think would unfold if Yoriichi fought against the upper rank 6 Daki, Gyutaro, and Kaigaku? Daki is all about using her beauty and tricks to try and fool her enemies. But hold up, Yoriichi's determination is too strong to fall for her games. Daki would come at him real quick, showing off her strength and crazy powers. But Yoriichi's sun breathing would cut right through her sashes, and that's a huge threat to her. His attacks will be intense, packing some serious heat, and they would counter all of Daki's attacks. But will she be able to put up a fight? Well, Daki also has impressive regeneration, can manipulate her hair, and share her senses with her brother, which will really put Yoriichi to the test. That if he isn't as fast as his speed is sound. As much as Daki has a never-ending sadistic attacks at her disposal, with her alone fighting and without the help of her brother, she would be a piece of cake for Yoriichi. Now, let's dive into Gyutaro, her brother, the true upper rank 6. How would he do against the greatest demon slayer that ever lived? Well, he would probably go all out on Yoriichi, but we all know Yoriichi. The sun-breathing master will fight back just as hard and wouldn't even break a sweat at all. Their clash will be a show of pure power and skill. Yoriichi's sun-breathing gives him an advantage because it's not called the strongest breathing form for nothing. But like all upper rank demons, Gyutaro can take a beating and heal up real fast. However, fighting against Yoriichi is another thing. The demon's flesh manipulation and poison generation abilities are surely going to be a hassle for him, especially if he can't find Daki. But will that be enough? Well, knowing Yoriichi's experience, he would probably figure out Gyutaro and Daki's weakness and take them out both in one hit. It's important to take note though that it requires decapitating both siblings simultaneously to completely obliterate them. This might be somewhat annoying, but it's nothing to be worried about. If Yoriichi had to fight Kaigaku, the replacement of the siblings, however, it would be like a showdown between a master and his buddy gone bad. Kaigaku's jealousy and selfishness due to his self-preservation will certainly be his downfall. Yoriichi's crazy sword skills and the power of the sun breathing will go head to head with Kaigaku's messed up thunder breathing combat style, which developed in his blood demon art, giving him the ability to manipulate lightning and electricity. So, will anything interesting happen in this fight? Well, Yoriichi will most likely try to convince Kaigaku to go back to the Demon Slayer Corps, and they'll try to turn him back into a human. It's like a fight that's not just about winning, but also about bringing someone back from the dark side. Kaigaku rejects this offer. Well, he would have been better off getting one hit by Zenitsu. Moving on, Gyoko the Upper Moon 5 against Yoriichi is something fans don't think about a lot. So what would happen? Well, if Yoriichi went head to head with Gyoko, it'll surely be an interesting clash between Yoriichi's sun breathing technique and Gyoko's blood demon art. Gyoko can teleport himself through his vases and set up deadly traps, making him a tough nut to crack. But Yoriichi's got some lightning fast moves, and maybe Gyoko can't keep up. But are we sure about that? Well, Yoriichi's blazing hot sun breathing might even weaken Gyoko's structures, giving him the upper hand. But don't underestimate Gyoko's flesh manipulation and aquatic-themed blood demon art. Yoriichi's gotta be quick on his feet if he wants to catch Gyoko before he manages to kill every last swordsmith. This fight is all about strategy and adaptability. Yoriichi's gotta figure out Gyoko's moves and come up with a plan to overcome his tricky vases. In the end, seeing how Muichiro was able to solo this guy, Yoriichi doesn't have to worry about anything. But how exactly will he win? Well, the outcome of this battle all comes down to Yoriichi's ability to outsmart Gyoko and take advantage of his weak points. But seeing that he has Transparent World, which allows him to predict his opponent's opponent's movements accurately, he's got the dub. Moving up the upper moon ladder, we now have Hantengu versus Yoriichi. So how does this crybaby demon go up against a Sigma male? Well, if Yoriichi went up against Hantengu, Hantengu would cry a lot, and this fight might have the most scenarios, each with its unique powers and trick-like illusions and transformations. Yoriichi's gotta keep his eyes peeled and adapt quickly to find the real Hantengu, using his precise strikes and adaptability to use Transparent World to sniff him out. The multiple Hantengu entities will team up to overwhelm Yoriichi, testing his speed and quick thinking. But will this be enough to beat the man who's basically a demon for demons? Well, certainly not, seeing as even in Hantengu's strongest form, Zohakuten was defeated by demon slayers that are far away from Yoriichi's level. Yoriichi's sun breathing will just slice through Zohakuten's wood manipulation and make short work of those wood dragons and find the small Hantengu, which he'll make demon sushi out of. How about their replacement? How will Nakime fight against Yoriichi? Well, if Yoriichi went head-to-head with Nakime, the new upper rank 4, it'd totally be a different showdown. Nakime, with their crazy blood demon art of messing with space, has the power to create and control the Infinity Castle, which makes her a very annoying enemy that Mitsuri and Obanai had trouble with. She can warp anywhere in the castle, trap her enemies, and twist space to her advantage. Yoriichi has got to think extra hard about his moves so he doesn't get trapped and waste time, but with his experience, he'll definitely catch up to her sooner than later, and Nakame will just be another number on his demon kill count. Entering the top 3 of the 12 Kizuki, it will be an epic showdown as Yoriichi goes head-to-head with Akaza, one of the top dogs among the upper moons. So, can Akaza put up a fight? Well, Akaza's known for his crazy strength and speed, and he'll surely throw relentless attacks fueled by his blood demon art, but not after he gets scared to death courtesy of Muzan's PTSD. This battle will turn into a jaw-dropping display of pure scale and power, and the animation might be anything better than we've seen before. It's monster against monster, but the blazing heat and blinding light from Yoriichi's sun breathing gives him an advantage as it will mess with Akaza's focus and ability to heal. But hold up, Akaza's no slouch. He's tough as nails and can heal in the blink of an eye. But are you forgetting something? Well, even if he could regenerate faster than the previous upper moons, like when he fought Rengoku, Yoriichi can stop him from doing that by making his Nichiren sword bright red, which even stopped Muzan himself from regenerating. So in the end, this battle maniac will disintegrate as if he didn't even kill dozens of Hashiras. But we're not done yet. The next demons will probably make Yoriichi put in a bit more effort. Or will they? And if you liked this video so far, don't forget to like and subscribe. So what would it be like if Yoriichi fought against the top 2 of the upper moon, you ask? Well, I can imagine Doma's got this freezing battlefield on lockdown, cranking up the cold to give Yoriichi a real run for his money. But our man Yoriichi has got some tricks up his sleeve, and this will ultimately become a battle of ice versus a literal sun. This battle will be a sight to behold, with flames blazing and lighting up the whole place. Yoriichi's all about precision and speed, going head-to-head with Doma's cryokinesis and extraordinary perception. And if you know basic thermodynamics, you'll know who wins. But is Doma going down that easily? Well, Doma's blood demon art is quite a hassle, especially since it affects the environment. Doma's rhyme, Water Lily Bodhisattva, will put up quite a challenge. However, seeing as Yoriichi may even be faster than Shinobu and Kanao, he can most likely blitz Doma in one fast move. It's gonna be one of the most eye-catching battles for sure, but if Doma's carelessness gets the better of him, he won't even have a chance at releasing his blood demon art. Lastly, we're going to take a look at the battle that never finished. Brother against brother, Yoriichi versus Kokushibo. We all know the answer to this one, but what if Yoriichi fought against the current Kokushibo, who had more than enough time to improve his swordsmanship? Will he be able to alter the outcome? Well, it's safe to say that it wouldn't change a lot. Of course, Kokushibo won't get demolished like he did the last time they faced off, but Yoriichi's in his prime, and now he's even meaner than ever. Take note that Yoriichi almost killed Kokushibo even when he was on the verge of dying because of old age, and the only reason Kokushibo didn't get killed was because Yoriichi died because he was too old. But this time he's facing Yoriichi, who isn't only old, but is also in his strongest form yet. In a blink of an eye, Yoriichi would complete what should have been done a long time ago, and Kokushibo will definitely regret becoming a demon. Now, for the greatest what if for this video. What if Yoriichi fought against all of them at once? Well, it would be intense, and it will be one of the greatest battles in all of anime manga. So, let me break it down for you. Each upper moon is a force to be reckoned with on their own. They've got crazy abilities that make them formidable opponents. But when these bad boys team up, their combined strength becomes something extraordinary. If they could have located the Demon Slayer's headquarters before the final fight, it's safe to say that the upper moons alone could give the demons an overwhelming victory. But will they win against Yoriichi? Well, the battlefield would become pure chaos. Yoriichi's gonna need to put more work in because he's gonna be facing coordinated attacks from multiple sides. With each upper moon using their unique skills to overwhelm him, it's gonna take calculated strikes and lightning-fast reflexes to find weaknesses and make the most of those fleeting opportunities in the madness. Now, with Yoriichi's technique, this can work in his favor, disrupting the coordination and focus of the upper moons. It creates those brief moments where Yoriichi can strike back. But here's the thing, it can also make him a big target. Those upper moons won't let up, and they'll be coming at him with everything they've got. But we'll leave this to you you, the viewers, to decide who win this epic showdown. Will it be Muzan's strongest, or will it be the greatest demon slayer that ever lived? Comment down below who you think will win, and of course, you gotta tell us why. But one more thing, have you ever wondered, what if Muzan sent all the demon moons to eliminate the demon slayer cores? Find out in this thrilling video.
What do you think will happen if Muzan sent the entire Demon Moons to eliminate the Demon Slayer Corps? How will this intense battle happen between the Demon Slayer Corps and the Demon Moons? Well, sit still because we've done all the research for you, so you don't need to worry. Anyway, let's get to the story already. Muzan has had enough of the Ubayashiki family already, and is desperate to eliminate him along with his precious Demon Slayers somehow. The Upper Moons are all summoned and briefed about Muzan's thoughts on ending the Slayers once and for all. Everyone except Kokushibo is in acceptance, as he clearly understands that Muzan's desperation and the underestimated strength of the Demon Slayer Corps might be the end of their tyranny. However, he complies with his master's wishes anyway, like a good demon would, and prepares for battle. They locate the Ubayashiki estate just before a fated Hashira meeting, and to their dismay, Kokushibo's predicted grim future has already become a reality. So, let's get the small fries out of the way. As soon as the demons would invade the estate, a lot of low-ranked demon slayers, especially the Mizunotos, would all be signed up for a mercy kill, and the lower demons too would be taken out by either some of the Hashira or the other high-ranked demon slayers. So, the actual battle would be the one between the 9 Hashiras and the 6 Upper Moons. Now, for all the people who've not watched the anime or read the manga, this might seem like a winning situation for the corpse. However, the truth could not be farther from reality here. Anyways, there would actually be a few Kino level slayers and a few Sugokus present to assist the Hashiras, but they wouldn't really make a difference against the Phenoms. So, back to the story. The Demon Slayers have suffered a huge setback but have killed all the lower moons. Therefore, we've got a flamboyant lineup of 6 moons who will be partaking in the lovely slaughterfest of the Demon Slayer Corps. First up, we've got the Edgelord, Kokushibo, the creepily jovial character, Doma, the messed up backstory, Akaza, the pathological liar, Hantengu, the water fetish dude, Gyoko, the sister lover, Gyutaro, and the Uggo mistress, Daki, versus the blind buff dude, Gyome, the polygamist, Tengen, the terrestrial Dory, Muichiro due to his memory, the mandatory over-sexualized female character, Mitsuri, the dude everyone tolerates, Saname, the antisocial procrastinator, Giyu, the I'm late in the anime too girl, Shinobu, the public favorite, Rengoku, the oh yeah, he's a Hashira too, Obanai, and the deadweight, Kagaya. We're going to be honest here, the power scale does tilt a lot towards the demon side, but the Hashiras too have quite a few tricks up their sleeves as well. As the battle is about to begin, Tanjiro and his squad arrive. He's with Inosuke, Zenitsu, Genya, Kanao, and Nezuko. The overtly cold Obanai yells at them for arriving late in sighs and frustration as they came with the demon girl Nezuko. Saname reveals that they were supposed to have arrived over an hour ago, and he screams in a threatening manner at them, saying that they will be punished after he makes mincemeat of the Upper Moon demons. Zenitsu is shaking in fright and almost pees himself as he states that Inosuke chased after some wild animals in the bush and they all had to chase after him. It took a long time before they could catch and restrain him, while Kanao and Genya helped them chart their way back to the meeting venue. Tanjiro and his crew are surprised to see the terrible Upper Moons here, and they know they are about to be involved in a battle of the ages, the fight for their lives, and the survival of the Ubayashiki family. The fight will begin with Kokushibo unleashing his devastating sword slashes upon the Slayers, and as the strongest among the Hashiras, Gyome is sure to not let this provocation go ignored, as he'll step out to face Kokushibo himself. Although Gyome doesn't really have the power to finish off Kokushibo himself, he'll definitely provide some sort of deterrence for the other Hashiras against his attacks, so that way they can settle up with their opponents. Doma will almost definitely go in for the ladies and will corner Mitsuri and Shinobu, which I believe is not going to work well for his overall health. Not because Shinobu has prepared a perfect counter for him, but due to the fact that eating one kind of meal for an extended period of time is not particularly good for your health. And as we all know, Doma has been eating women for over a century. Next up, Akaza will definitely be pissed off over the antics of Kokushibo and Doma, as one hogs the most powerful opponent and the other is literally a thorn in his side no matter what he does. However, he'll definitely be impressed by the movements of Muichiro, as he'll definitely realize that the boy is young and certainly a prodigy. However, Muichiro won't be enough to hold off the enemy, so Saname will definitely join in on the battle due to his very calm demeanor. Hantengu will apologize to everyone before transforming into Zohakuten and raining down thunder on the Slayers. He'll be challenged by Obanai because of his annoying demeanor and will be helped by the Lord of Flashiness himself, as thunder is an element he's comfortable fighting with. Giyu will take on Gyoko while shutting off his nonsensical art talk, while the terrible sibling duo will try their luck with the flame Hashira Rengoku. All the other Slayers will probably stay out of the way of the Hashiras, as getting in between numerous fights that they cannot even see will be a fate worse than jumping under a hydraulic press. The fights look pretty evenly matched. However, there's one thing that we must consider. Even if the Hashiras draw their battles towards a stalemate in terms of strength, they're definitely going to lose out when it comes down to endurance. However, strong and tolerant the Hashiras may be, fighting these insanely dangerous opponents for an extended period of time is going to chip away at their stamina pretty quickly. And not to forget that they are not the primary targets, as the Moons are here to end the Ubuyashiki family and kill a few Hashiras as a bonus. As the fight progresses in the moonlit night, Gyome begins to struggle against Kokushibo. Genya assists him with flesh guns shooting at Kokushibo. However, the Upper Moon 1, who was formerly a demon slayer, is not moved. He flings the now weakened Gyome across the room and rushes at Genya, tearing Saname's younger brother apart from limb to limb in a terrific manner. In a sneaky show of force while looking over the blood all over him, Kokushibo is decapitated by Gyome, but this just leads to the Upper Moon 1 undergoing a new transformation, and in this form, he makes light work of Gyome, impaling the stone Hashira severely with his sword made of his own living flesh. Seeing Gyome take his last breath, Muichiro leaves the battle against Akaza as he decides to try and save the stone Hashira, but is too late as he gets himself involved in a battle with Kokushibo. The prodigy gets to work, slicing part of Kokushibo in a wide array of attacks, ensuring that the demon doesn't have the time to regenerate. It's looking like Muichiro will achieve the unthinkable when Kokushibo lets out a loud demonic laughter. He praises the skill of Muichiro, saying that at this young age, Muichiro is certainly better than he was as a youngster. He transforms his body and restrains the young boy, giving him an option to become a demon like him too. However, Muichiro refuses and Kokushibo does not repeat himself. He makes a clean cut and the head of the demon slayer can be seen flying off into the open field. Kokushibo has taken out 2 Hashiras and the fight is just beginning. There was something that happened before the fight, and it is subscribe now, where Muzan will eat up Nezuko. Just kidding, but hey, subscribe. So with Muichiro leaving the battle against Akaza, Shinobu will sacrifice herself, like in the original story, to give Mitsuri a chance at victory against Doma. However, Kokushibo won't allow any of that to happen. Rengoku, with his excellent strength and battle perception, will soon find out how to defeat Daki and Gyutaro. He'll create an opening and slash both their heads using his 9th form. Rengoku will then move on to assist Giyu in his fight against Gyoko, and with 2 insanely powerful Hashiras, his teleportation will falter, with him ending up under the sword of one of them. Meanwhile, Obanai will definitely be smart enough to guide Tengen to the real body of Hantengu. However, Zohakuten will kill Obanai mercilessly and go after Tengen to finish him off as well. Tengen will be assisted by Tanjiro and Nezuko. The flashy Hashira will put his speed to use and decapitate the real Hantengu, making Zohakuten turn ashy. With Shinobu and Mitsuri now dead, Doma tells Kokushibo not to interfere in his battles anymore. The former upper rank 6, who is now the upper rank 2, spots Zenitsu and Inosuke running towards an intense battle where we can see lights clashing. He appears in their front, stopping their run. He begins to toy with them until Kanao arrives. From their discussion, he finds out that she has some form of relationship with Kanae. He believes that it is his destiny to eat her, and he wants to relish the dish. He refuses to kill Zenitsu and Inosuke yet. He keeps toying with them. He wants them to feel despair as they watch him eat Kanao. Saname arrives and helps the youngsters, leading the battle against Doma. Zenitsu finally activates his Demon Slayer mark in this battle, but he dies later on. Kanao also dies, and when Doma is finally defeated, only Saname and Inosuke are left standing. Inosuke is badly injured though, and he dies after some time. Rengoku, Giyu, and Tengen will take on Kokushibo, while Tanjiro, Saname, and Nezuko fight off Akaza. After a long, drawn-out battle that sees our favorite girl, Nezuko, lose her life, Tanjiro is on the floor, almost unconscious from loss of blood. We see Saname clutching onto Akaza's head as he holds the now decapitated head of the Upper Moon 3 as his latest trophy. Saname tells Tanjiro to take his time and rest while he goes off to join the battle against Kokushibo. Tanjiro promises that he will come as fast as he can. On getting to the venue, all Saname can see is destroyed houses. He follows an underground alley and sees the dead body of Rengoku, who died while protecting Tengen from Kokushibo's blood demon art. Saname screams out in rage as he attacks Kokushibo, providing an opening for Giyu and Tengen to land their vital attacks. With the use of their marks in Transparent World, they are able to give the Upper Moon 1 a run for his money, but it doesn't end without casualty, as Tengen soon succumbs to his wounds and joins his wives in the other world. Tanjiro finally arrives, and it is now Tanjiro, Saname, and Giyu against Kokushibo. The tide is shifted in the favor of the Hashiras due to the vital hits that the Upper Moon has previously been dealt. Just then, the weather changes. The Hashiras are on their guard, knowing that something is about to happen. It gets cloudy. A storm is coming. However, it's just the demonic Michael Jackson that makes his way onto the stage. The Hashiras, seeing him, know that all hope is lost. However, Saname gives a rousing pep talk to his two colleagues. What do you think the Hashiras will do in this situation? Will they run away? Or will they stay and fight as the last line of defense for humanity against the demonic scourge that is about to sweep over all the lands? Your guess is as good as mine. Muzan tells Kokushibo to stand down. Tanjiro, Saname, and Giyu stand their ground, but they are no match for the Demon Lord, who makes light work of the already tired mere mortals, spits on their corpses, and proceeds to kill off the Ubuyashika family. What follows is a slaughter like no other. The Demon Slayer Corps is completely destroyed, and everyone with a hint of affiliation with them is hunted down and killed. Muzan continues to rule the land with the new set of demons he creates. However, Nezuko's death means that he would never be able to walk into the brightness of the sun. The Demon Lord won, but is now confined eternally to the darkness. Thank you for reaching the end. YouTube thinks this is the video you should watch next. Come on, check it out.
What if the Upper Moons attack during the Hashira training arc? Will this bring an end to the Demon Slayers or end to the Demon's side? How will the fight play out? Well, during the Hashira training in the main story, Muzan sent the new Upper Moon 4, Nakime, to scatter her demonic eyes all over the Demon Slayer headquarters in order to find the dwelling place of Kagaya Ubuyashiki as well as Nezuko. He did nothing to interrupt or impair the Hashira training process, but in this version of the story, Muzan uses some of his brains and would decide to take things to a chaotic max and send his Upper Moon demons, Kokushibo, Akaza, Kaigaku, and Doma, to invade the training grounds and wreak some havoc. Nakime would of course be excluded from this affair since she isn't really much of a fighter outside of the Infinity Castle. However, she'd be playing a much more important role to Muzan, as she's not only the one who's in charge of locating Muzan's targets, but also her Infinity Castle manipulation ability allows her to instantly send Muzan and his forces to the battlefield and retrieve them if things get out of hand. So she's basically their Uber and get away from jail free card. The Hashira training would kick off the usual way, with the average Joe Demon Slayers being put through hell by the Hashiras and Tanjiro eventually joining after fully recovering from his injuries. Things would take a turn when demons swarm the Demon Slayer headquarters, and the Demon Slayers are now forced to abandon their training in order to slay the demonic horde and save their lives. This, of course, happens during the start of the arc when Tanjiro is in a sparring match with Tengen as part of his stamina training. After their mock battle, Tengen praised Tanjiro for his improved skills, but their little bonding session is disrupted when a group of ugly-looking demons surround them. Tanjiro immediately takes up arms against them to protect the surrounding demon slayers as he uses his Hinokami Kagra Sun Halo Dragon Head dance to behead them in a stylish fashion. Seeing that, Tengen smiles and says, "Kamado, now that's flashy." Tengen demonstrated how much of a badass fighter he was as the Sound Hashira during the Entertainment District arc. Despite being retired, Tengen isn't exactly the kind of guy who would see a swarm of demons and not take action, so he uses his bead bombs and other shinobi weapons to take out a bunch of demons, until his wives bring his Nichiren weapon. We already saw during the fight against Gyutaro that even with one hand, Tengen is an absolute monster on the battlefield, so he has no problems using his sound breathing to behead all the remaining demons in the area. But that's when things take a turn for the worst. Suddenly, a chilling aura envelops the training grounds. Akaza, Upper Moon 3, appears out of nowhere, his presence a dark and menacing shadow. His eyes lock onto Tanjiro, burning with a mixture of hatred and excitement. "Tanjiro Kamado!" Akaza yells, his voice dripping with malice. "I've been looking forward to this." Tanjiro's eyes flare with rage as memories of Rengoku's last moments flood his mind. "Akaza, you'll pay for what you did to Rengoku." Akaza's grin widens. "And you called me a coward. How quaint. Let's see if you can back up those words." Tengen steps forward, his eyes narrowing. "Stay back, Tanjiro. This one's mine." With a roar, Tengen launches himself at Akaza, swinging his massive dual blades with deadly precision. Sound breathing, fifth form, string performance. The air vibrates with the force of his attack, creating a shockwave that aims to cut Akaza down. Akaza counters with destructive death, compass needle, a shockwave of his own that collides with Tengen's, the resulting explosion shaking the ground beneath them. "Tengen-san!" Tanjiro shouts, his grip tightening on his sword. "We have to fight together!" Tengen glances back, his expression grim but resolute. "Stay sharp, Tanjiro. This demon is no ordinary foe." Akaza smirks, relishing the challenge. "Come, show me your resolve." Tengen and Tanjiro move in perfect harmony, their attacks complementing each other's styles. Tengen unleashes a flurry of strikes with sound-breathing fourth form, constant resounding slashes, his blades moving with blinding speed. Tandrio follows up with Hinokami Kagura, Dance of the Fire God, his fiery blade cutting through the air towards Akaza. Akaza, however, is a formidable opponent. He deftly blocks Tengen's strikes with Destructive Death Annihilation type, a powerful martial arts technique that shatters the ground around him. With a roar, he counters Tanjiro's attack with Destructive Death Air type, a series of rapid punches that create shockwaves, forcing Tanjiro back. Is that all you've got? Akaza taunts, his eyes glinting with sadistic delight. Tengen growls, blood trickling from a wound on his arm. We're just getting started. Despite their combined efforts, Akaza's strength and speed are overwhelming. Tengen, refusing to back down, pushes himself beyond his limits. Tanjiro, on my signal, we hit him together. Tanjiro nods, his eyes burning with determination. Right! Tengen unleashes sound-breathing sixth form, Roar, a deafening attack that disorients Akaza for a split second. Seizing the moment, Tandrio charges with Hinokami Kagura, Clear Blue Sky, his blade blazing with fiery energy. The combined attack strikes true, but Akaza's regenerative abilities keep him in the fight. He retaliates with Destructive Death, Leg Type, Crown Splitter, a devastating kick that sends Tengen flying. Tengen-san! Tandrio cries out, rushing to his side. Tengen struggles to his feet, bloodied but unbroken. Tandrio, you have to finish this. Tandrio's eyes fill with tears of rage and sorrow. No, Tengen-san, we fight together. Akaza's laughter echoes through the battlefield. How touching. But it ends here. With a roar, Akaza launches a relentless assault, his Destructive Death Leg Type Explosive Flurry aiming to finish them off. Tengen, using the last of his strength, counters with sound-breathing First Form, Roar, creating a barrier of sound that temporarily halts Akaza's attack. Tengen-san, no! Tanjiro screams as Tengen collapses, his body unable to withstand the strain. Tanjiro, you can do this! Tengen gasps, his vision fading. Enraged and desperate, Tanjiro stands over Tengen's fallen form. You'll pay for this, Akaza! Akaza smirks, unfazed. Then come and face me, boy! Tandrio launches himself at Akaza with renewed fury. Hinokami Kagura, Burning Bones, Summer Sun! His blade ignites in flames, slashing through the air with lethal precision. Akaza counters with Destructive Death, Compass Needle. Their attacks flashing in a blinding explosion of power. The ground beneath them cracks and splinters, the air filled with the roar of their battle. Is that all you've got? Akaza sneers, his regeneration keeping him in the fight. I'll never give up, Tandrio shouts, his attacks becoming faster and more desperate. Just as Akaza is about to land a fatal blow on Tandrio, a swift, precise strike interrupts him. Water breathing. 11th form. Dead calm. Giyu Tomioka has arrived, his presence a beacon of hope. Tomioka-san! Tanjiro cries out, his voice a mixture of relief and determination. Giyu's expression is as stoic as ever. Tanjiro, we fight together. Akaza's grin widens with excitement. More opponents? This is getting interesting. With Giyu by his side, Tanjiro feels a renewed surge of strength. They move in perfect synchronization, their attacks harmonizing in a deadly dance. Giyu strikes with Water Breathing, 7th form, Piercing Raindrop, a precise and deadly thrust aimed at Akaza's heart. Tanjiro follows up with Hinokami Kagura, Clear Blue Sky, his blade blazing with fiery energy. Akaza, though formidable, finds himself pushed to his limits. He counters with Destructive Death, Leg Type, Crown Splitter, but Giyu and Tanjiro's combined strength begins to wear him down. Impressive, Akaza admits, his voice tinged with genuine admiration. But can you keep up? Giyu and Tanjiro press their advantage, each strike carrying the weight of their determination and the memories of their fallen comrades. Giyu unleashes water-breathing 9th form, splashing water flow, turbulent, creating a torrent of water that envelops Akaza. Tanjiro seizes the opportunity, launching his most powerful attack yet, Hinokami Kagura, Flame Dance. His blade becomes a whirlwind of fire, slashing through the water to strike Akaza with devastating force. Akaza staggers, bloodied and battered, but still defiant. You've grown stronger, but this isn't over. The battle rages on. The training grounds are engulfed in chaos as demons attack from every direction. Zenitsu, eyes wide with terror, darts from one hiding spot to another, his heart pounding in his chest. Where do I hide? Where do I hide? Zenitsu whispers frantically, his breath ragged. He stumbles behind a large boulder, trying to calm himself, but the fear is too much. Suddenly, the ground shakes as demons burst forth, their snarls filling the air. Zenitsu's body seizes up and he faints in sheer terror. As Zenitsu lies unconscious, a change comes over him. His body tenses, then relaxes, and his breathing steadies. Sleep Zenitsu has awakened. His eyes snap open, now calm and focused. With fluid, graceful movements, he stands and unsheathes his sword. Thunder breathing, first form, thunderclap, and flash. In a blinding flash of light, he dashes forward, cutting down the demons with unparalleled speed and precision. One demon lunge at him from behind, but Zenitsu counters effortlessly. Thunder breathing, first form, thunderclap, and flash, sixfold. He moves so fast that he seems to be everywhere at once, dispatching the demons in a flurry of electric energy. Zenitsu's relentless assault continues, each technique more powerful than the last. But then, a chilling voice echoes through the chaos. "Zenitsu, I see you've improved." Zenitsu freezes as Kaigaku, his former comrade and now Upper Moon 6, appears before him. Kaigaku's eyes gleam with malice and contempt. "You've become quite the swordsman, but you're still the same coward I knew." Zenitsu's grip tightens on his sword. "Kaigaku, you betrayed us. You betrayed our master." Kaigaku smirks, his posture relaxed yet menacing. "Master was weak. He couldn't survive in this world, and neither could you. But I've found true power." With a roar, Kaigaku attacks. Thunder-breathing third form, Thunder Swarm. His sword crackles with dark lightning, the force of his attack shattering the ground beneath him. Zenitsu barely manages to dodge, countering with thunder-breathing first form, Thunderclap, and Flash, eightfold. He unleashes a series of rapid, electrifying strikes, each one aimed at Kaigaku's vital points. "You always were fast," Kaigaku sneers, deflecting the attacks with ease. "But speed alone won't save you." Their swords clash in a series of blindingly fast exchanges, the air around them crackling with energy. Kaigaku's dark lightning clashes with Zenitsu's bright, creating a spectacular display of power. "You've grown stronger, Zenitsu, but you're still not enough," Kaigaku taunts, pushing Zenitsu back with a powerful strike. Zenitsu grits his teeth, refusing to back down. "You're wrong, Kaigaku! I'm not the same scared kid anymore!" He launches himself at Kaigaku with thunder-breathing first form, thunderclap and flash, eightfold. His blade cuts through the air with incredible speed, striking Kaigaku's side and drawing blood. Kaigaku snarls, his eyes blazing with fury. "You'll pay for that!" He unleashes thunder-breathing sixth form, rumble, and flash, a devastating attack aiming to finish Zenitsu off. Just as Kaigaku is about to land a fatal blow, a familiar voice rings out, "Zenitsu, watch out!" Inosuke bursts onto the scene, his dual blades flashing, beast breathing, fifth fang, crazy cutting. He intercepts Kaigaku's attack, the force of his strike pushing the demon back. "Inosuke!" Zenitsu exclaims, relief flooding his voice. Inosuke grins, his eyes wild with excitement. "Let's take this guy down together!" Kaigaku's eyes narrow. "So, the boar-headed fool joins the fray. No matter, I'll crush you both." Zenitsu and Inosuke move in tandem, their attacks complementing each other's styles. Inosuke's aggressive, unpredictable strikes keep Kaigaku on the defensive, while Zenitsu's precise, lightning-fast techniques strike with deadly accuracy. "Thunder-breathing first form of thunderclap and flash sixfold," Zenitsu calls out, his blade emitting arcs of electricity that force Kaigaku to dodge. "Beast-breathing third fang, devour," Inosuke roars, his blades tearing through the air in a whirlwind of steel. Kaigaku counters with thunder-breathing, fourth form, distant thunder, striking with terrifying power. The ground beneath them shatters, and the air fills with the deafening sound of thunder. Despite their combined efforts, Kaigaku's strength is overwhelming. He deflects their attacks with ease, his counterattacks growing more ferocious. "You're strong, but you're still nothing compared to me," Kaigaku taunts, his blade crackling with dark energy. He launches a devastating attack, aiming to finish them off. Zenitsu and Inosuke barely manage to dodge. The ground where they stood moments ago, now a smoking crater. Panting and bloodied, they regroup, their determination unwavering. "Inosuke, we have to end this now," Zenitsu says, his eyes fierce. Inosuke nods, his gaze steely. "Right, let's go all out." With a roar, Zenitsu and Inosuke launch their final assault. Zenitsu moves with blinding speed, his sword a blur of lightning. Thunder breathing, first form, thunderclap and flash, Godspeed.
He strikes Kaigaku from multiple angles, each attack a burst of electric fury. Inosuke follows up with beast breathing, 7th form, spatial awareness, his heightened senses guiding his strikes with pinpoint accuracy. Beast breathing, final fang, sudden throwing strike. He hurls his blades with incredible force, aiming for Kaigaku's heart. Kaigaku unleashes his full power. His blade becomes a serpent of dark lightning, striking out in all directions. Similar to the main story, Sanemi and Obanai are having a duel at the time. They face off in a secluded area, their swords clashing with lightning speed. Their intense match is abruptly interrupted as a swarm of demons bursts into the clearing, their eyes gleaming with bloodlust. Without missing a beat, Sanemi and Obanai switch from sparring to combat. Wind breathing, 1st form, dust whirlwind cutter. Sanemi shouts, his blade creating a vortex of wind that shreds the demons around him. Serpent breathing, 1st form, winding serpent slash. Obanai intones, his sword slashing through the demons' insinuous deadly arcs. The two Hashira move with deadly precision, their techniques cutting down the demons with ease. But the respite is short-lived, as an ominous presence disrupts the battlefield. Doma, Upper Moon 2, emerges from the shadows, his smile cold and mocking. His presence sends a shiver down their spines, but their resolve only hardens. Sanemi and Obanai launch themselves at Doma without hesitation, their swords moving in perfect harmony. Wind breathing, 2nd form, claws purifying wind. Sanemi's attack creates a barrage of slashing winds aimed directly at Doma. Serpent breathing, 2nd form, venom fangs of the narrow head. Obanai's sword lashes out like a serpent aiming for Doma's vital points. Doma deflects their attacks with his fans, his movements almost leisurely. Is this the best you can do? I'm disappointed. Sanemi and Obanai press on, refusing to relent. But the fight doesn't end here. Stay tuned for part 2 of the video, make sure to subscribe and watch how I created the strongest Upper Moon's demons ever. Before the part 2 comes out, take care.
The fight continues as Sanemi and Obanai press onto Doma. In the last video, Tengen died. Akaza is currently fighting Tandrio and Giyu. Kaigaku is also fighting Zenitsu and Inosuke. Wind breathing, 3rd form. Sanemi's blade whips up a storm of cutting winds, slashing at Doma from all directions. Serpent breathing, 4th form. Obanai's sword moves with terrifying speed and precision, striking at Doma with relentless fury. Despite their best efforts, Doma's strength is overwhelming. He deflects their attacks with ease, countering with devastating force. Crimson Lotus, Frostbite. Doma's fans create an icy explosion, forcing Sanemi and Obanai to retreat. Wind breathing, 6th form. Black Wind Mountain Mist. Sanemi counters, creating a shield of wind to deflect the ice shards. Serpent breathing, 5th form. Coiled choke. Obanai's sword wraps around Doma's weapon, attempting to disarm him. Doma laughs, effortlessly breaking free from their combined assault. You're all so persistent, how amusing. As the battle rages on, Shinobu and Kanao arrive on the scene. Shinobu's eyes are filled with determination, a fierce resolve burning within her. Doma, you will pay for what you did to my sister! Shinobu screams, her voice shaking with emotion. Doma's smile widens, his eyes glinting with amusement. Ah, Shinobu, you've grown. I've been waiting for the day I could devour you. Shinobu's face sets in a grim expression. Insect breathing, dance of the butterfly. Caprice! She darts forward with incredible speed, her blade aiming for Doma's neck. Kanao follows suit, her movements swift and precise. Flower breathing, 1st form, crane wing. She attacks from the other side, coordinating perfectly with Shinobu. The 4 demon slayers fight fiercely, their attacks relentless. Wind breathing, 4th form, rising dust storm. Sanemi creates a powerful whirlwind, trying to trap Doma. Serpent breathing, 3rd form, coil choke. Obanai's sword lashes out, aiming for Doma's vital points. Doma deflects their attacks with his fans, his movements almost leisurely. Is this the best you can do? I'm disappointed. Shinobu presses on, her anger fueling her every move. Insect breathing, dance of the dragonfly, compound eye hexagon. She aims multiple strikes at Doma, hoping to find an opening. Kanao supports her, their synchronized attacks creating a dazzling display of swordsmanship. Kanao's graceful movements add to the assault, each strike aimed with deadly precision. Despite their best efforts, Doma's strength is overwhelming. He deflects their attacks with ease, countering with devastating force. In a moment of desperation, Doma aims a lethal blow at Kanao. Kanao, look out! Shinobu cries, throwing herself in the path of the attack. The blade pierces through Shinobu, her blood splattering onto the ground. She gasps, her eyes wide with pain and determination. Sanemi, Obanai, and Kanao's eyes widen in horror and fury. Shinobu! They cry out, their voices filled with anguish. Doma smirks, wiping the blood from his blade. Such a touching sacrifice! But it won't save you! Fueled by rage and grief, Sanemi and Obanai attack with renewed ferocity. Wind-breathing, 7th form. Sanemi unleashes a torrent of wind blades. Serpent-breathing, 4th form. Twin-headed reptile. Obanai's sword moves with terrifying speed and precision. Kanao, tears streaming down her face, joins them. Flower-breathing, 5th form. Peonies of futility. She attacks with all her might, her strikes fueled by the memory of Shinobu. The battle rages on, brutal and unrelenting. Despite their combined efforts, Doma remains a formidable opponent, his laughter echoing through the battlefield. On the mountain portion of the training grounds, Gyome and Genya destroy a bunch of demons that invade, but then an oppressive presence fills the air. Kokushibo, Upper Moon 1, emerges from the shadows, his 6 eyes gleaming with malevolent intent. The air grows cold, and the sense of dread is palpable. Seeing Upper 1 inscribed on his enemy's eyes, Gyome preps his massive flail and axe and alerts Genya. Prepare yourself, Genya. This will not be an easy battle. Genya, gripping his shotgun and Nichiren sword tightly, nods. I'm ready, Gyome-san. Kokushibo wastes no time, launching himself at the pair with blinding speed. Gyome swings his massive weapon with formidable strength, intercepting Kokushibo's initial attack. Stone-breathing, 1st form, Serpentinite bipolar. Gyome's weapon creates a powerful shockwave, forcing Kokushibo to momentarily retreat. Genya fires his shotgun, the explosive rounds aimed at Kokushibo's head. The Upper Moon 1 deflects the bullets with ease, his eyes narrowing in annoyance. Impressive but futile, Kokushibo sneers. Moon-breathing, 3rd form. Loathsome Moon, chains. His sword creates a cascade of crescent-shaped blades, forcing Gyome and Genya to dodge and block with all their might. Gyome, sheer strength and defensive techniques clash with Kokushibo's relentless assault. Gyome swings his flail and axe in wide, powerful arcs, deflecting Kokushibo's attacks and creating a momentary opening. Genya seizes the opportunity, charging at Kokushibo with his Nichiren sword. You won't get away with this! Kokushibo, unfazed, counters with a swift, brutal strike. Moon-breathing, 5th form. His blade moves with impossible speed, slashing through Genya's defenses and sending him crashing to the ground, bloodied and battered. Desperate to protect Gyome and buy him time, Genya consumes a piece of demon flesh, his body temporarily regenerating and enhancing his abilities. He stands, defiant, and attacks Kokushibo with renewed vigor. Kokushibo's 6 eyes flash with contempt. Brave but foolish! He delivers a crushing blow that pierces Genya's chest, his sword imbued with a deadly dark energy. Genya gasps, blood pouring from his wound. With his last breath, he tries to strike Kokushibo one final time, but the Upper Moon 1 effortlessly bats him aside, his body collapsing lifelessly. Filled with sorrow and rage as he witnesses Genya's fall, he channels his grief into his attacks, each strike more powerful than the last. Stone-breathing, 7th form, his weapon moves with incredible speed, creating a barrier of stone that pushes Kokushibo back. Kokushibo, however, is relentless. You cannot withstand my power, Stone Hashira, he taunts, breaking through Gyome's defenses with a powerful strike. Just as Kokushibo is about to deliver a fatal blow to Gyome, Muichiro Tokito appears, his blade intercepting Kokushibo's attack. Mist-breathing, 6th form, lunar dispersing mist. He creates illusions, confusing Kokushibo and buying Gyome a moment to recover. Kokushibo's eyes widen slightly. Your skills are incredible despite your young age. There's no doubt about it. You are my descendant. Muichiro's expression remains cold and determined. It doesn't matter who I am. I'll defeat you. Muichiro and Kokushibo clash with incredible speed and precision. Mist-breathing, 7th form, obscuring clouds. Muichiro's movements become a blur, his blade striking from multiple angles. Kokushibo acknowledges his skill with a grim smile. You have potential, but it won't save you. He counters with moon-breathing, 6th form. His blade creates a whirlwind of slashes, cutting through Muichiro's defenses. Just as the battle seems to be reaching a critical point, Mitsuri Kanroji arrives, her whip-like blade striking Kokushibo with incredible flexibility. Love-breathing, 5th form, her sword dances through the air, adding to the assault on Kokushibo. Gyome, Muichiro, and Mitsuri coordinate their attacks, each strike aimed to exploit Kokushibo's openings. Stone-breathing, 4th form, Gyome's weapon smashes into the ground, creating a shockwave that staggers Kokushibo. Mist-breathing, Third form, Muichiro's blade moves like a ghost, striking Kokushibo's vital points. Love breathing. Sixth form, Mitsuri's blade wraps around Kokushibo, attempting to bind him. Despite their combined efforts, Kokushibo's strength is overwhelming. He parries Muichiro's strike, countering with a devastating blow that sends the missed Hashira sprawling. Mitsuri, seeing Muichiro in danger, leaps to his defense. I won't let you hurt them. She attacks with all her might, but Kokushibo's blade is relentless. Moon breathing. Eighth form, he unleashes a deadly combination of slashes that overwhelms Mitsuri, her blade shattering under the force. Mitsuri, no! Muichiro cries out as Kokushibo's blade pierces Mitsuri's heart, her body collapsing to the ground. With tears streaming down his face, Gyomei says,
Namu Amida Butsu.
With Mitsuri's sacrifice fueling their rage, Gyomei and Muichiro launch a furious assault on Kokushibo. The battle becomes a brutal 2-versus-1 clash. Gyomei's strength and Muichiro's speed create a deadly combination. Stone-breathing, ninth form, Gyomei's weapon swings with earth-shattering force, aiming to crush Kokushibo. Mist-breathing, seventh form, Muichiro's blade moves with otherworldly speed, creating a flurry of strikes that envelop Kokushibo. Kokushibo fights back with all his might. Moon-breathing, 10th form, drilling slash moon through bamboo leaves. His blade moves with blinding speed, countering their attacks with deadly precision. Similar to how things happen in the main story, Muzan storms into Kagaya's home. Before Muzan can kill him, Kagaya sacrifices himself to cause an explosion that temporarily weakens Muzan. Lady Tamayo arrives and tries to hold Muzan off with more traps in anticipation of the Hashira's arrival. But this time, there are no Hashira around to capitalize on Muzan's weakened state since they're all in a crisis of their own. Muzan kills Lady Tamayo easily and alerts Nakime that the sun is on the verge of rising. The several face-offs between Demon Slayers and Upper Moons come to an abrupt end as all the Upper Moon demons are instantly teleported into the Infinity Castle. At the end of the arc, there are only 5 Hashiras left: Muichiro, Gyomei, Sanemi, Obanai, and Giyu. Other significant characters such as Genya and Kagaya are also dead, as well as an unprecedented number of Demon Slayers. The characters swear to get revenge on Muzan and the Upper Moons for the tragedies they faced. The Demon Slayers mourn their lost comrades. Gyomei mourns his former Tsugoku, Genya. Obanai mourns his crush, Mitsuri. Kanao mourns her master, Shinobu. And Tengen's wives as well as Tandrio mourn Tengen. The entire Demon Slayer Corps mourns its fallen leader, Kagaya Ubuyashiki. The characters swear to get revenge on Muzan and the Upper Moons for the tragedies they faced. By sunset, when the Hashiras were having meeting, just then an aura emerges from the shadow, making all the Hashiras in alert.